Hello, everybody. Welcome in to my latest live broadcast. Today is March the 3rd, 2020. It's Tuesday. My name is Carey Holzman. Thanks, you guys, for joining me today. We got a little bit of a 5-minute early start. Give people some time to catch up. We're going to talk today a little bit about diagnostic LEDs versus a human brain, and why I don't use any sort of diagnostic tool other than the human brain, as it's proven to be the most efficient, most reliable means for me to stay in business. So that's all I can share with you is my experience. I can't tell you about anybody else's. So we're going to get started here in just a moment. Brendan Looney has contributed £2. Thank you, Brendan. Let's see. Somebody is anti-human brain. All right. We're going to get started talking about this officially here in just a moment. I just want to give people a chance to jump in and join us. So, seeing a lot of familiar names in blue, and realize I was mentioning some very generous and frequent contributors to the channel, and I knew I was leaving names out, and one that bothers me that I didn't mention is a gentleman named David Hale. So if he didn't say anything, maybe he didn't even watch the latest couple videos. I haven't seen him in the chat room, but I do want to give him a proper shout out as well. And I know there's others I am forgetting, and I will name them off as I remember them. And again, another shout out to Peter Laycock, and his generosity and support is greatly appreciated. And I would say this entire week's stream is being sponsored by Peter Laycock, and I just can't even tell you how much that means to me, and that there are people in the community so supportive that are willing to step up and help make it possible for me to make more videos more often. And I think today I think I've got something really good here for you, and that is an example of psychology. So we're going to talk a little bit about psychology and how that applies to our interaction with computers and our often incorrect assumptions where we apply human-like behaviors to the computer, even though it's a computer. And we know that there's a thing many of us do, and that is we fail to oftentimes get into the right frame of mind to a machine that operates on a completely different set of rules than organic beings, and specifically human beings, but any organic being is very, very different from a digital thing. As far as I know, there are no digital beings. They're just digital things. So they're very cold, they're very calculated, they're very predictable. And when they become unpredictable, that's when the human psychology kicks in, and it's quite often misconstrued in more ways than examples I can give. But I will offer you a few. Of course, you know I will. Before we get started, a couple of contributions have come in. Joe Bush has contributed $4.99. He says, it's always great to catch you live. I love the channel. Make you a moderator, Joe. Thank you. Richard Angeline has contributed $2 and says, I love the channel. We got another new friend in blue here. Thank you, Richard Angeline. Now, I think I got everybody in here. Nick Poverman alerted me to a news item regarding NVIDIA's latest, the importance of NVIDIA's latest updated graphics card driver. It appears there are 2 vulnerabilities in the latest NVIDIA graphics card drivers from version 440. Any version that starts with 440, you want to replace with 442.5, whatever the latest is today. It's of critical importance. On a security level, it's been rated an 8 out of a 10 on the level of how critical it is that you update the driver. So if you don't know what version of NVIDIA driver you've got, if you've got one at all, it's always best to download the latest one. If you don't even know if you've got one, this probably does not affect you, because you would have installed a newer NVIDIA driver recently to get to 440. within the last week or two, I think. So if you never did that, then this isn't affecting you. Okay, so I don't want you to worry. Bear Paw has contributed £2 and says, I always enjoy the show. Thank you, Bear Paw. No, we've already made you a moderator, so we're all good here. Now, Nick, thank you for bringing that article to my attention. And did I put a link to it? I think I put a link to it in the show notes below the video. I'm hoping to bring a gentleman named Simon on from RoboForm through Skype to talk about RoboForm on Friday. Now, Skype is not a sponsor of the show, and they are not paying me in any way, shape, or form. That being said, what they are going to do, and it's active right now if you want to take advantage of it, is offer you a discount on RoboForm. Now, RoboForm is a password manager. It'll store and save and generate passwords for you that are secure. It'll encrypt all of that, and I've been using it for, I think I interviewed Simon in 2006 when I was doing a radio show. And then Simon is still doing his thing, I'm still doing my thing, and it'll be a good time for us to catch up because I don't think we've really spoken for 13 or 14 years. So I'm looking forward to having Simon on the show. And if you look in the video notes below the video, you'll see there is a link to, are you sitting down? It's a really good deal. 60% off of RoboForm. That puts it under $10 for 1 year of RoboForm. And it's only good until the end of this month. So RoboForm, listen, I have nothing to do with the company. I don't profit if you buy it or you don't. I would like to see this community be seen as valuable to companies so that they're begging me to sponsor me. And that's going to happen via whether or not people or how many people participate in these kind of deals, right? So it's just sticking our toe in the water and see what it feels like. But in the meantime, for those of you who see a value in that offering, it's less than half price. I've never seen it this cheap before. I've been watching and using RoboForm for a long, long time, a decade and a half at least. I've never seen it this cheap. So if I was you, I mean, what are you doing to take advantage of if you've got a password manager now that encrypts and backs up your password safely and securely, great. If you don't, I highly recommend it. There are some products that I will openly admit I'm a shill for because they're excellent products and offer you a great value. And that's the only thing I will ever shill for. Facts are facts, and that's the side I'm on. So there's just some people that are so negative in the world, they just see bad in everything, and I can't really find an issue with RoboForm. It's never let me down. It's never caused a problem. And, every once in a while you may run into a website that it doesn't work with. Typically it may be a bank or something like that. And they're always updating it to take advantage of that. To take advantage of new technology responses, to automation. So anyway, we'll talk to Simon more about that. And if you have questions about RoboForm that you would like me to ask Simon while he's on the show, please leave them in the comments after today's video, not during the chat, because I won't be able to see that later. But after this video is posted later today, if you'd like me to ask Simon a relevant RoboForm password, I would be very happy to. In the meantime, if you're already aware of RoboForm or you want to do your own research on it, you've got until the end of March 2020 to take advantage of the 60% off. It's not offered anywhere else. It is strictly for you, my viewers. That's it. Nobody else gets that. So it's just something I'm doing for you guys. I think it's good for everybody. It's good for them. It's good for you. Maybe I get some new followers out of it, Gunnar and Gunnar has contributed 50 Norwegian kroner. He says, thanks for a great channel. I hope it will exist for a long time. You and me both, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we've got about 440 people in the watching live right now. So let's talk about this. The human mind and how it responds to technology, it's pretty interesting and it's pretty fascinating sometimes. Not all the time, sometimes. So to avoid embarrassing anybody, not that they should be embarrassed because all of us do this, I want to give you an example. Someone I know has a concern when they leave the house if they've left the garage door open. And it's happened to me too. Like I've turned the car around. I've never left the house with the garage. I've never done it. But I just think, oh, did I do it? I don't remember doing it. And I turn the car around and I check and it's always closed. So the person says to me, I think I'm going to get a new garage door because this is driving me crazy. Like the more I think about it every day, it's another, did I close it? It's happening more and more often the older I get. I start questioning myself. And I think it's worth it to spend the money and get a new garage door opener installed. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. You don't have to buy a new garage door. There are garage door notifiers that work with any brand of garage door, and they're like $35 on Amazon with great ratings. But there are specific ones made by the garage door opening companies that work better with their own garage doors. So what garage door motor do you have? And this person says, I don't know. I go, well, walk out into your garage, look up, and it's written right across the side of it. This person does that and says it's a Chamberlain Wi-Fi. So this is a fairly new garage door opener. Yes. It says Wi-Fi right on it. Oh, well, I suppose I should read the instruction manual. And I'm like, hold on a minute. And I just Google how to use the Wi-Fi on the Chamberlain garage door opener, and it leads me, the first site says just 3 steps. First step, download, go to the App Store and download the MyQ app for free, which is made by Chamberlain, the garage door opening company. Step 2, start the app and follow the instructions in the app. Step 3, click here for the FAQ and to contact support. That's it. No money had to be spent, no garage door opener had to be replaced. And I'm sure this person would have gotten there on their own eventually, but this was all settled in minutes instead of continuing to be a concern and then worrying about having enough money before I would go forward and be distracted with life's other distractions, and then it gets put off and put off. So, not the end of the world, but got to a solution, didn't have to spend any money, and got there quicker. This idea that we're solving problems before they happen to some extent gets ridiculous. I'll install the latest BIOS update so that my customers don't experience the problem the BIOS update fixes. Because if my customers have a problem, that makes me look bad and it costs me money. So when I'm doing things under warranty. And it's an inconvenience if I did it all for free and it really wasn't an issue of money, it's still an inconvenience to the customer. Now what you do at home with your own machine really doesn't matter, right? As far as I'm concerned, you're not my customer, I don't support you, it doesn't matter to me. So I have a different process because I'm a business owner. Now that being said, when I built this machine behind me, I knew this was going 2,000 plus miles away to northern Minnesota, right up at the top of the United States, kind of in the middle, pretty far from where I am. And when the customer received it, and the customer has a disability, the customer said they were going to have to wait for their son to help them unbox it because they couldn't get it out of the box. So then I get a call a couple days later, that they got the computer, son came over and unboxed it, and they cannot get it to stay on. It turns on and it immediately turns off. And I said, well, can you check this and can you check that? And how about this, how about that? And he goes, yeah, the strange thing is it won't even turn on when it's upright, but if we lay it down, it'll turn on. And he's a former electronics technician from, he did that stuff in the 60s and 70s and, 80s. So he knows how ridiculous that sounds. Like he's telling me, look, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I can't deny that when the system is upright, it won't turn on. And when it's laying flat, it turns on briefly and shuts off. So I'm going to test all of you right now. I want to test this demonstration of psychology is going to be a live one by simply asking you what you think the problem is, given one little piece of information I'm leaving out. The customer has obviously returned the machine to me. The customer has tried everything he can think of and cannot get the machine to stay on. I get it. Live on camera, I turn it on for the first time. It boots straight up, no problem. In the upright position. I turn it off, I turn it on, I turn it off, I turn it on. It works exactly the way it's supposed to work. And the customer says, boy, these intermittent problems are a bear, aren't they? And I said, no, wait a minute, this is not intermittent. This is very consistent. It very consistently turns on for me, and it very consistently turns off for you or simply won't come on. If it does come on, he says it won't be on. He doesn't know how long it stays on, but it's less than 30 seconds. Now, I want you to listen to the customer's words very, very carefully. And now I would like you to tell me what you think it is. Okay, so please put your answers in the chat room if you haven't done so already. And I want you to consider the title of this video. All right? I want you to consider the subject of today's video, which is simplicity, versus overthinking. Most of you that I'm seeing right now in the chat room are overthinking it. Now, I can't tell you for sure what it is, but there's only one thing that makes any sense to me, and I'm very, very confident. So feel free to I'll give you a little more information. Did he keep his finger on the power button? I asked him that question, and he said no. He is not keeping his finger on the power button. I asked him about the electricity in his house. His house was built in 2015. And he's got what he's going to say, ham shack. He's an old school ham radio operator, and he had extra power actually put into the room to handle his power needs for his ham radio operation. So it's all brand new construction. Everything's been great. No issues with power. And he's an electronics guy, so he knows. Wait, hold on. We've got a winner here. We got somebody. It's the first time seeing this, that looks like they're on the same page with me. And for you, sir, I am profoundly impressed. Now, who do you think said what I believe is the right answer? So far, I've only seen it once. Given that this person had a career, I want you to consider all of the things. I'm giving you a lot of hints here. This person is very familiar with electronics. He's got a history of decades of working with electronics. This person understands how power works. This person understands the difference between a power switch and a reset switch. You can push a reset switch all day. Computer ain't coming on. This computer comes on and then turns off. He's not holding the button in. He's got no problems with any electricity anywhere in his house. No issues with the power. There are no power issues from any cables with regard to power source. So when it comes to the PC power cable, I asked him what he was plugging into the computer, and he said he had just a power cable. No video cable, no keyboard, no mouse, just the power cable, and he wanted to see it, he wanted to see the lights and the fan spin. And they will spin and the machine will, that's fine. You don't have to have a monitor hooked up. And what he did was exactly what I would expect a knowledgeable person in electronics to do as a diagnostic. So, John Craig has contributed £2 and says, no fixation without accessation. Well, I am looking through the comments right now to see if I can find. Okay, I see a few people. And you guys can give yourselves credit, but the first one I saw was William Dawson. And here's what I believe is happening. If what the customer says is true, and we have a knowledgeable customer here, then the information that he is giving me, you know, I've talked about how customers lie. Well, sometimes customers give you the answer if you just listen. So we're going to repeat what Valentine did to turn the computer on. We're going to plug just the power in. We're going to flip the switch on. We're not going to have any other cables. I've got the keyboard and mouse dongle back in the mouse. Nothing else is plugged in back here. And I'm going to press the power button. And as you can see, the machine comes on. And we can let it run here for a little bit and see if it shuts off. He says it won't even stay on 30 seconds. So once we get past 30 seconds, if it's still running, we've already been unable to confirm the customer's complaint. My thanks to Free Range Scotto for contributing 10 Australian dollars. He says, morning, Carey, and everyone else finally able to join a live broadcast. Right on. Hey, thanks for joining us, Free Range Scotto. Now I want you to ask yourself this question. This machine's still running. So I'm going to turn it off by holding the power button in until the machine turns off. Is there any way we can reproduce the customer's complaint? So what would happen if I push the power button in and hold it in? Even though he says he's not doing that, what happens? Will the machine stay on until I press? Oh, no, it already turned off. Wait, let's do that again. I'm going to press the button in and hold it in. And will it go 30? No, see, it starts and then it shuts down. That's exactly what he described, but he says he's not holding the power button in. So, today, we're going to change out the front ports that contain the switches and wires to the front power switch, because I believe that we either have a bad connector, a loose connector at this end, or a bad switch on this end. And as you can see these days, you know, back in the day when Valentine worked on electronics, you could tell if a switch was bad and it was easy to replace it. These days, the amount of time and effort and tools and knowledge it takes to just test a surface-mounted switch is far more expensive in labor and time than just getting a whole new unit, which is free under warranty anyway from the case manufacturer. So I believe that we have a sticky power button, or I believe that the connectors are the problem. If we go back and we watch me build this computer, these cables kept falling off. The front port umbilical cables kept falling off. And I was like, why are these? And I kind of chalked it up to maybe I put the cable management on too tight. And I adjusted the wires a bit to not put so much tension on them, and the cables still fell off. Now at that point I thought to myself, I should probably change the case. Something's weird about these connectors. They're too loose. They shouldn't fall off like this. I do this all the time. I've never seen them that loose. And my next thought was, but then I got to take everything back apart. Why don't I just get my hot melt glue gun and glue the connectors on? And that's what I did. Problem solved. But there's a big temperature difference between Phoenix, Arizona and northern Minnesota, where we're in the 70 and 80 degree Fahrenheit range. He's in the negative 30 degree Fahrenheit range when this computer arrived. And further, he's at a different elevation. And so that's going to affect the connections of a flaky or faulty switch and cable. This is the only thing that I can come up with that makes any sense. Now, given in the past, I have a repair video where a customer said that their computer was restarting randomly. It had been working for about a year and suddenly started restarting. And he replaced, he took it to a shop, and the shop said, looks like you're going to need a new motherboard, so you're going to need a new CPU and new RAM because they don't make this stuff anymore. It's a year old. And he never had a problem with it. He built the machine just the way I do, using parts I use. And of course, another East Coast person living all the way out in North or South Carolina, way on the opposite side of the country from me, did it just from watching my videos. So the shop wanted, for parts and labor, $700. And they said, you know, that's what we believe it to be. And he said, no, thank you. And they said, well, you owe us $50 for our time. And he paid the $50 and said, you know what? I can send the motherboard back on my own. And he took the motherboard and got an RMA from Gigabyte and did that whole process, put it in, and had the same problem. He emailed me, what do I think? And I said, well, you know, it sounds like a power supply problem to me. And he changed the power supply via my recommendation. And I can't see it, you know, he's thousands of miles away. He says, it's still happening. It's just a random blue screen. A clean install of Windows? Yeah, done that. You won't even install Windows. It just randomly restarts during the install. I mean, if you want to send it to me. Well, look, everybody's overthinking everything here. What causes a computer to restart? And people will often do what I do, bad RAM, bad power supply. What about the restart button, the reset button? What does that do? Well, that restarts the computer. So if that button were bad or sticking or causing intermittent shorts, would that also not cause that problem? And I did that live on a diagnostic repair video that you can watch here. It was back, it's been about 2 years now. And by the way, that system still works to this day. But what I did was, I simply disconnected the front panel switches just to take them out of the, because anything connected to the motherboard, USB ports, audio port, any of that could, you know, if there's a short inside of a USB port, someone sticks a paper clip in there, bad things are going to happen. I've seen it all, and then some. So I can't see what's going on inside the switch. They're micro switches and they're surface mounted technology, or SMT. So these days, we're trying to help as many customers as possible, as quickly as possible, and we're swapping parts. We're getting the parts for free from the manufacturer. We don't have to break out the soldering iron. We don't have to break out the solder. We don't have to break out the flux. We don't have to spend the time to fix it. We don't have to in this country. Instead, we can quickly fix it, do it faster, do it cheaper, and help more people in less time by swapping out the right component. And that's exactly what it was. Now, because I had that experience, it kind of leaves a scar. And I'm thinking, I'm just sitting and I'm talking to Valentine. And Valentine's a really bright guy. You know, he's not a guy who's not going to have the power cable all the way in. He's not that guy. He's not the guy who's going to mislead me, or he's not going to misinterpret the technology. He understands the technology. But he's, you know, just as baffled as I am trying to make heads or tails of this. And the thought of the reset switch video came back to me. And it was, well, computer was resetting. What causes a computer to reset? A reset switch? Okay. How do you turn a computer on? Power button. And how do you turn the computer off? Power button. Sounds to me like we have a bad power button. And when I put together the difficulty I had getting these cables to stick, to stay in, because they normally just, it's a tight friction fit, and these were loose. I should have either swapped that out at that time or moved him into a different case, knowing the circumstances, because this guy lives in the middle of nowhere. This guy lives with the bears and the deer in the woods. You know, he is 3 hours away from a big city, maybe 2 hours away from a smaller city in North Dakota than he is to a big city in Minnesota. Like, I'd say he's probably 3 hours from Minneapolis, 3 or 4 hours. So, you know, my thought was maybe I could send a tech out there to look at it, but I don't even know that a tech would have found that. I think we'd be right back at square one, because it's very unusual, and the more technical somebody considers themselves to be, the less likely they are to think of the simple solution. Now, the only thing I can do at this point is replace this and send it back to Valentine, because there is nothing else that makes any sense. Now, if anybody sees a flaw in that logic, speak up now and tell me what you think it is and how I'm wrong, you're certainly welcome to do that. I can't come up with anything else on my own, and sometimes there are people with great ideas in the chat room, and I want to make sure that I'm looking for a little reassurance from you guys, or perhaps making sure that you don't see something that I don't see. It's always good to have another pair of eyes, or 853 other pairs of eyes. And yeah, I believe this is truly going to solve the problem. But in the back of my mind, I can't help but think, what if I'm wrong? What if I send this back to Valentine and we're right back to square one again, and there's just nobody I know, and I wouldn't ask anybody, that's a big ask, to drive that far to help this person, if they could even help them, because you're in the middle of nowhere. You'd have to bring every possible part you think you could need to diagnose this. And it's not like anybody's got one of these hanging around, right? You see what I'm saying? So, at some point, I just have to do what I need to do. This is the only thing that I can come up with. And I always keep a spare one of these because I use a lot of these cases. This is the second time in I don't know how many years. How about 10 years? I don't know. How long have I been using the Corsair 200R case? Not 10 years. 5, 6 years? And you've got to remember, I'm dealing with a larger quantity than you at home. So for you to go, well, that's why I don't buy a Corsair case, that's ridiculous. Because it's very clear, if we look at the percentage-wise of how many times this has had to be replaced, I think we're on 2. But compared to how many of these I've sold, who's to say any other manufacturer would be any better than that? In fact, probably would be worse. Power button is used a lot. It's one of the reasons I suggest people leave their computers left on. But I realize I have a worldwide audience, and that may not be practical for people outside of the United States, or it's possible it may not be practical for somebody living from hand to mouth. In other words, they just, if it's going to cost them an extra nickel to leave the computer on, they need that nickel to eat. But for most of us, the cost of the repair is far more than the cost of electricity and leaving it on. And moving parts are the first parts to fail. I've talked about that too. There's only a few moving parts in this case. The fans, there's 3 fans, front, rear, CPU fan, and then there's a fan in the power supply. And the switches, that's all that moves. And that's where your focus needs to be. Now, what college are you going to go to where the professor is going to teach you that at any price? That's life. This is real, folks. And this is why I do what I do. It's amazing to have these opportunities to share with you live on camera these discoveries, and for you to follow along the diagnostic process to see how I got there. Not so you can become a robot and go, oh, the computer's resetting, it's got to be the reset switch. But you know what? It should be one of the first things you check before you change the power supply. When I went to school to be an automotive mechanic, I went to school in the 80s to a GM certified training facility at the nearby community college with the intent to become an ASE certified mechanic. And I will never forget some of the things the instructor said, and one of them was, you guys always need to check the simple, easy things first. And the example he gave was, car won't start, battery's dead, need a new battery. Wait a minute, check the alternator belt. Is the alternator belt loose? That may be all it is. And that was a lesson from the late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember what year it was. I guess it must have been the late 80s. And it stuck with me. Always check the simple. And he wrote KISS on the chalkboard. Keep it super simple. He was being nice. Because most people say, keep it simple, stupid. And if anybody's an overthinker, it's this guy right here. So I sometimes have to take a stand back and remind myself, what's the easiest thing I can check? You think that would come naturally. I don't want to dig a ditch if I don't have to. I don't want to work harder than who wants to work harder than they have to work? What am I thinking? So we get back to the psychology of it. And the psychology of it is to retrain ourselves through repetition to create new habits, to encounter any issue you have in your life, whether it's electronic, mechanical or even an interpersonal relationship, to break it down to what is the simplest thing. Like, let's say you get into an argument with somebody and you go, well, how am I going to get this argument over? Like, I just want this argument to end. And in your frustration, you may be getting louder and they may be getting louder, and yet you're just 2 feet away from each other. You're screaming as though that's going to make some sort of an impact other than to cause the other person to scream back. You know, I do believe that in our lives, we hurt others because others hurt us. It is a learned behavior, and as free will living beings that are self-aware, we can consciously choose to make different decisions, and through practice that will start to happen automatically. Now, some people say, well, that's kind of a holier than thou attitude. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with trying to achieve a holier than thou attitude? We should all be holier than thou. We should all rise up and lead by example and not criticize those who do, in my opinion, because we're right back to that we hurt others because others hurt us kind of thing. Somebody did it to them, now they're going to do it to you. So we have to break the cycle, and we can't change it on our own for the world, but we can change it for ourselves. And it just requires practice and repetition. And that's the psychology of computer repair as far as I'm concerned, as somebody who does it for a living, 12 hours a day, 12 days a week, 24 months a year, for 20,000 years, uphill in the snow both ways. I've done everything the hard way. I promise you. It's stupid. And when you're in that argument with that person and you just want it to end, maybe you just need to ask them, how do I make this argument end? Just stop arguing. Just go, what is it you want to hear? What is it you want me to say? What do you want? And if what they want is reasonable, give it to them. Because sometimes what they wanted you weren't willing to give. And then after the frustration of the argument, you're just like, all right, it's not worth it. I'll just give it to you. Whatever it is, I'm just going to give it to you so this torture will stop. I mean, some people may choose to not respond and walk away and not get themselves involved in the argument. But that doesn't do much for that relationship. And I really believe that when you stop and ask, what do you want? You might be surprised how simple the answer is. Well, I just want an apology. Okay, I'm sorry. Is that all I had to say? We've been arguing for 20 minutes because you wanted to hear, I'm sorry. I will gladly say, I'm sorry, even if I didn't think I did anything wrong. If that's what it takes to end this relationship, to end this conversation, and then end this relationship, but to end the argument and to move on to change gears into normal conversation. And that's really hard to recover from. It's hard to, because we're not robots, it's hard to get out of an argument and then go, so how, other than that, how was your day? But you can if you choose to, and it's difficult, and it takes practice. But it's, in my lifetime, been far more positive in the results. The end results have been far more positive than fighting and arguing. The fighting and arguing, I have never said anything that I'm proud of when I was mad. So I don't want to get mad. And I do, and I don't want to. And the minute I realize I'm getting mad, which might be long after it's happened, but eventually I realize it, and I go, I don't want to be mad anymore. You know, I don't like it. So what do I got to do to not be mad anymore? What is it you want? Tell me what you want. And if what you want is reasonable, I'll give it to you. Fine. And if what you want is unreasonable, I'll say, well, that's unreasonable, and here's why. And if that starts another argument, it's just like, well, I mean, where can we go from here? Like, if you think it's reasonable and I think it's unreasonable, what more are we going to get from talking anymore? At this point, maybe it's time that we just agree to disagree and go our separate ways. Because when you force somebody to agree with you, what you're trying to do is change them. And probably the reason you were attracted to them, whether it's a friendship or any type of a relationship, was there was something about them you liked. And if you start turning that person into you, because they just say yes and they agree all the time, you will probably no longer be attracted to that person in all likelihood. So Think about it. Think about what you're doing. And break it down to the most simplest thing. What's going to be the end result here? If I win, what do I win? Did I permanently change the behavior of this other person and make them more reasonable? And if you continue to do that, you change who that person is. And it may not be the person you like anymore or are attracted to. You might just feel like, we get along now, so nothing really exciting. Sometimes it's the little arguments. It's the differences that challenge us. And it's okay. And the same as applies, I kind of see life as all sort of the same. Little minor differences, but overall the same sort of base. And I'm old enough now to tell you, I know the difference. Now, if you wish to accept that or deny it, it doesn't make any difference to me. I wish somebody would have explained it to me 40 years ago. I really do. It could have, 35 years ago. And I wish if somebody had explained it to me, I would, even if I didn't believe them, the fact that I heard it, I could start evaluating it and practicing with it and just testing the water. And I would find that to be far more useful through experience. I wouldn't just take anybody's word for it, but I would certainly not immediately dismiss it, right? I'd be like, okay, well, maybe I'll try what he said and see. And then when you have a positive outcome, if you have a positive outcome, be like, there's something there. So let's change the switch. This is super easy to do. It's really such a shame. I think I built 5 computers that week, and what are the odds that the computer with the bad switch goes to the guy who's the furthest away, who lives in the woods and has a disability, right? All the other people, the other 4 out of those 5, I think also got Corsair 200R cases, and those are all fine. So what are you going to do? I mean, that's just Murphy's Law, as they call it. So I'm going to, I've got to remove the optical drive to get this front bezel off, but you'll see changing this out is really easy. And the reason I use the hot melt glue on here is that it easily comes off of other, when you're trying to secure cables into their connectors, Dell and HP, all those guys, I don't know what they do now, but back in the day with IDE cables, they would use the hot melt glue because if you had to take the cable off and replace the motherboard, it kind of peels off. It doesn't hurt anything, and it's not like a permanent glue. And so in most cases, all I have to do is wiggle and pull on those connectors, but I glued it really good. And of course, you could get the glue gun out and heat that glue up, but then it could get a little messy. So it's easier if you can just get it to peel off. And so I'm just going to just wiggle on these connectors. I've got all 4 connectors in my hand. And I'm trying to grab the edge of the glue with a fingernail so I can peel it back. And I'm getting there. I was very thorough when I put the glue on it because these darn cables were getting me angry that they kept falling off. And that never happens. And I just chalked it up to me tightening the cable management too tight. But there's something else going on here. And what have I got to lose at this point anyway? Corsair is I'm going to fill out an RMA form when I'm done here today. And I'm going to use the spare front port connector. I have a spare one because I do so many of these. And I'm going to tell Corsair that I have a bad power switch. They don't question it, not because it's me, that's just they have really good support. And they're going to send me a brand new one. And when I get that new one, it'll go back in my spare parts area in my office for the next time I get a bad USB port or audio port or switch. Because they're all on the same connector and the whole connector gets replaced. Or the whole panel gets replaced, I should say. Yeah, I did a good job on this one, I did. Come on now. So you haven't put glue on the side of it just to make sure I did it good. But I didn't put any glue under it, so be patient, don't cause any damage. I mean, I don't care if I damage these connectors because this whole front port connector is there it is. It's going to go in the trash. But that's it. And then there's a little bit of residue up here of the glue. think. Is that residue? Oh no, that's a set of pins. Okay, anyway, it just peels right off. It peels off, it's super easy. Let me take the optical drive out. I put a couple screws in there to secure it during shipping. And that means I got to take the other side panel off as well. So we're going to turn everything off before we do this to be safe. We're also going to unplug it. I highly recommend you do not work on a computer plugged in, even if the power supply is off. There is a danger of electrical shock on an earth ground, and an earth ground is not needed for electrostatic protection. You just need to be on the same electrical level. It's another big internet myth that people just won't let it go. And they'll come in here and leave a comment and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. And clearly they have no electronics engineering experience formally or education because, well, look, it's your hardware and it's your life. You know, some people will say, well, it's only 120 volts, it won't kill you. Really? Nobody stuck something into an electrical outlet and died in 120 volts? I'm pretty sure it's happened. So anyway, I always want to advise safety, because if you do it the way I tell you to do it, or the way I advise you to do it, I can guarantee you won't even so much as be shocked. But if you listen to other people and they go against my advice, and if you get hurt, you'll say, you know, I should have listened to Carey, because there was a risk the way they said it, and there was no risk the way Carey said it. So who should I listen to? I'd listen to the guy whose answer provides you no risk, but that's just me and the way I think. I also might be biased, so, you know. Take this panel off of here. And this is a very easy repair. And remember, I talked about the reason why I do the cable management, why I separate out the bundles, so that if I'm repairing something, I don't have to undo all the cable management. And we're going to give a great example of how much easier that makes this whole process, because of what I'm thinking about when I'm doing the cable management. So for example, I know I've got to take the USB and front audio header wires and the front port panel connector wires. So there's one wire tie I'm going to cut right here. And that's it. Just that one wire tie, because I was thinking of that if I ever had to replace it. And you'll see these are bundled separately, this is bundled separately, and so to replace that now, I have to remove the USB 3.0, which is bundled separately. See, I wire tied that. I have to remove the front audio connector, which is just a friction fit. We can just wiggle that and pull it, and it comes right out. And if we come back around here, we can now pull everything right through. I did put another wire tie right here, so that one's got to come off. So there's two that have to come off. That makes sense. It's totally good. Only two wire ties have to be removed, or nylon zip ties. I need to use the right terminology. Need to come off. And there's all of our front panel freed. Now I want to take, like I said before, I want to take the optical drive out, because the optical drive blocks the ability. The bezel on the optical drive fits inside of the bezel of the case. So the optical drive, on most cases, sometimes you can get away with it wiggling the bezel around it, but it can scuff up and scratch up your parts. So it's just two screws, if you even use screws, because on this case and on many others, there is a toolless design where I pull back on this tab right here, and well, you can see that tab, and then just push forward on the optical drive. There, we just slide that right out and get it out of our way. Oh, I suppose I need to unplug power and data from the back of that. Yeah, so there we go. So I'm going to set that temporarily right over here, because we're going to obviously put it right back in a moment. Now, most cases have little plastic tabs that hold this front bezel on, where the plastic meets the metal. Some are screwed in, but those are usually the really super cheap cases or really old cases. And by really old, I mean 10 years old or older, or cases made by mass manufacturers like Dell, HP, Acer, those companies. If you built it yourself, if you bought it a case intended for a home user, and it was mid-range or higher, You probably just have little plastic tabs and you can feel for them, or you can grab a flashlight and look for them. I feel 2 on the Corsair 200R right at the very top, and I'm going to push them out this way and at the same time towards me. So I'm grabbing it with my fingers, pulling it away and pushing towards me just a little bit until I feel it move. And then I'm going to come down until I feel the next 2. They're right here. Same thing, push them in towards me. And I'm going to come down here a little further. Right at the very bottom, there's 2 more. And now we've got the front bezel off. And these are the clips I was describing to you. There's the one at the top, right there. One in the middle, right there. And one at the bottom. So, and it's same on both sides. Some people talk about how the paint wears off. Well, you know, you can call Corsair and they'll send you a new front bezel if you're under warranty. It's super easy to replace it. It's not a big deal. And even then, the switch still works. It's just sometimes the paint wears out around it. And, you know, if that bothers you aesthetically, Corsair's really good with their support, and they have good products, which is why you'll probably never need to use their support. So there's 3 screws that hold this bezel on, and I'm going to take all 3 screws out right there. Sorry, that's not the bezel. This is the bezel, and then this is the front panel I/O connector, or the front I/O panel. And we're just going to see the way that routed, the way they routed the wires there. We're going to take this out. Sometimes it's hard to get all the wires out at the same time. Sometimes the opening for the wires is only as wide as the end of the plug, or the biggest plug. And so you might have to take them out one set at a time. That one came out, and then this one will come out. Versus trying to get all 3 wires out this hole at the same time, it can be quite a challenge. So here's the cable management I had done. You can see how I cable managed the front switches and LEDs. You'll see how I cable managed the USB 3 cable, and you'll see there's no cable management whatsoever on the front audio, because it just runs the length, and it gets sort of the little extra is tied in with the rest of the cabling here. And look at how easy that was. There wasn't any untangling. You know, you ever untangled like some old Christmas tree lights or holiday lights? And you're like, I think I'm just going to go buy new ones. He's telling you, man, you don't know who the next person is that's going to work on a system that you're building for somebody else. But if I were you, I'd hope you were working on one of mine, because it'd make your life a lot easier than somebody who slapped it all together lazily and couldn't be bothered with the cable management. And your 10-minute job now takes an hour. You're just cursing the whole time. Wish I could meet the guy who built this. So thinking that I might be the next guy who works on it, I'm really just doing it for me. And if the customer ever opens up the case and looks inside, I want them to say, wow, it's really nice in there. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to put this on, the orientation. We don't want to put it on upside down. We know that the USB ports go on the left, the power switch is on the right. And it cannot be put on upside down because there is a hole for a screw in the top. So if you put this on upside down, there's no matching mounting point down here. There's nothing to secure to. So you have to secure it here, here, and here. And the first thing is to run the cables back. First and foremost, run the cables back. And once again, don't try and put them all in at the same time. There is an opening at the top of the case. I'll do these cables because they're long and nimble. They're super easy to maneuver. And I like to do the easy thing first. Most of us put off the difficult stuff for later. If there's any cable that might be a little bit of a challenge, it's this one because of how thick it is, and it's not as flexible. And it's got that large connector on the end of it, which the hole is just a bit bigger than that. So we'll put that one in next. And the space between the hole and this edge is shallower than the depth of the connector. So you've got to put the connector in and then immediately start pushing it down. or try and put it in sideways and then grab it. So if you got really fat fingers, this might be a bit of a challenge. If there's a child around, put them to work. Come here and grab this. Let's see. There we go. And then, and I'm pushing them through so they don't fall back out, because, you know, they'll come out all on their own when you don't want them to. And then just this last audio cable, and we'll run that through. And now I can grab all of them and pull to take up all the slack. So then that we have all the cable, all the extra cable, just the way it was from the manufacturer before we did our cable management. And sort of replicate what the manufacturer had done. And we've got to rotate this in the proper direction. And this is just going to go on like so. Now, one of the advantages I have of using, look, at the end of the day, the customer decides what case they want, okay? But this case makes a lot of sense to buy because of its value. A lot of people are turned off with case windows and lights. It's, especially those of us who are a bit older, we find it to be very immature, an unnecessary expense. And we work hard for our money all our lives, and we don't want to just throw it away on stuff, many of us believe, on things that don't matter. It's more of a younger mindset that typically do that. However, everybody's different. But most of my customers are older customers, and they're like, I'm with you on that, Carey. I'm totally with you. We're on board. I don't want the lights. I don't want the window, and I don't want to spend $200 on a case. And I'm like, well, you know what you want? You want the Corsair 200R. Now, because I happen to have a lot of customers request those cases, I have spare front panels. Well, I have one. I don't have a spare one anymore. And it's the only one I have for any case. Because look, there's thousands of cases out there. So that just makes the repair quicker. If I didn't have it, it'd be no big deal to contact the manufacturer, put the computer off to the side, and wait for the RMA part to come in, and then get back to it. But again, because I do so many of these, it's logical and efficient for me to have a spare one in the very rare occasion that I ever need it. I've probably been sitting on this one for a year. So it's not like I go through them like water or anything like that. And Corsair is always good. I'm telling you, their support is always good. If it wasn't good, you know me. You should know me by now. I'd call them out on it if I was upset. And I don't think they know who I am. I mean, sometimes they might, but I don't go, hey, I'm a big-time YouTuber and you guys better kiss my behind. No, no, no. I would rather they did not know who I was so that I can be treated no differently than anybody else and get a real honest interaction with their support so that I can then tell you what it was like. And if they're going to do things for me that they don't do for you, that ain't right. We're going to put the front panel back on, and just all you have to do is line it up. Now, some panels there actually are, they'll seat down in the bottom first. There'll be little tabs that go down. Sometimes you have to push the bottom in first. This Corsair 200R strictly goes straight on and clips straight on. So whether you start at the bottom or the top, doesn't matter. I try and just grab it in the middle and squeeze it. And then just check all the corners, make sure that all the corners are seated. There it goes. Now it looks better. Feels good. Optical drive can go back in. If I can get it lined up in the slot correctly. Make sure the cables aren't in the way. Yeah, there's a cable. That will lock back into place. That will lock. There it goes. So I had to give it a little motivation. And then we'll put the two screws back in. There's one. Ooh. What was that all about? Are you okay? You gonna be all right? You sound good. All right. Fixing a problem, I have another problem that I wouldn't have had if I wasn't fixing this problem. And now that's a problem. Oh, yeah, something's not happy. So it might need a little oil, or maybe I'll just buy a new one. I'm going to be disappointed. I'm just hoping it's this long bit wobbling, but it may have taken its toll on the bearings. Well, you know, this is America. We replace stuff. And so far, I mean, it's fine, but I might just want to get myself a spare one and be ready. I know that's coming. Front port audio, I'm going to put that back on. I can throw these away. Now this customer's Wi-Fi card is in the way of me putting the front port audio cable on, so I'm going to quickly remove that temporarily so I can put the connector on. If you just like, I really don't want to take the card out, I'll try and squeeze it in there. You can break stuff real easy. It's a real tight fit. It takes 2 seconds, as you saw, 20 seconds to take that card out. Super easy. And then I need a flashlight so I can see which direction. Connector only goes in one way. We want to make sure we're getting it in the right way, or it won't fit, it won't go in, and then I don't want to bend any pins. So the missing pin is on the bottom, and so that's where I shall place it. There we go. Fits nice and tight. I want to make sure that the connectors down here also fit tightly, and I can take this opportunity now that I have the flashlight to remove the excess dried up glue, which kind of feels like peeling boogers off of this thing, but it's just glue. Okay. Front port umbilicals, I'm going to just run those down here. And grabbing the flashlight. Let's see what we got. Oh, is my light dying? I'm having a day, aren't I? Let's see what we have. Hard drive LED fits. I'm trying to feel if they fit loose like the other ones did. That's okay. Power LED. I want to make sure these cables are not intertwined right now because it'll make the cable management easier. Positive cable is going to go towards the edge. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely fitting tighter than the other one fit. I don't know if it's without something to directly compare it with. I mean, I just can only assume that that's normal and nothing to worry about. And then we've got the reset switch that goes next to the hard drive LED. And then, of course, the last thing is the infamous power switch, which, again, I want to make sure nothing's interwoven here as much as I can right now. And the power switch goes right over the reset switch connector, right beside the, I should have put the little shoe out so this thing won't spin on me. And I will still get my hot melt glue out and glue that in place just to be safe. And the last thing now is the front port USB, which is not required for booting. And then, of course, putting the SATA and power back on the optical drive that I keep forgetting throughout this live broadcast to mention and do. So hopefully I will remember to do that here in just a moment. So the front port USB only goes on one way, and it just locks in there. And then here's our SATA power connector for the optical drive, which is going to go on just like this. And see, I didn't have to undo any of that cable management. Both of those cables are stay cable managed this entire process, which is why I don't attach unrelated cables to each other unless it's all in bulk. You know what I'm saying? Like I won't have to undo 17 different cable ties. Now, I'm going to put the Wi-Fi card back in. Perfect. Make sure that's seated well. Ensure that my power supply is switched off, and I'm going to plug power in. Again, it's just for safety. Just for safety. Just better safe than sorry. I've got my USB dongle for the keyboard and the mouse, and then, of course, I need to get an HDMI cable, which I have right here, so we can plug it into your monitor and test fire it. And, of course, it's always worked for me, and it's never worked for Valentine. So, I suspect it's going to work for me and Valentine now. And if Valentine gets this and says it doesn't work, you know what? It's going to work. Positive thinking. You know, sometimes positive thinking is just healthier. Because sometimes we worry about things that never happen. And that's the kind of stress that can lead to high blood pressure, especially typically in men. And it's a practiced behavior. Like you're trying to prepare for the worst, and that's stressful, and then the worst never happens. But there's got to be a balance. You just can't go through life going, nothing's going to happen to me. But you don't have to say everything's always going to happen to me either. All right, so let me plug this back into your monitor back here. This is your monitor at home I'm plugging into. And then we're going to turn this on right now, flip the switch, and we'll go to turning your monitor on, activating your monitor. And I'm going to put myself in the corner of your monitor. Yeah, that ought to be good enough. And then, is this seated all the way? Yeah. I'm going to hit the switch. Looks like it's seated funny, but I guess not. I guess that's right. Now I'm noticing little details that I think were always there, and I just never paid attention to until now. All right, I'm going to press and release the power button. Make sure it shuts off. It does. Wait for the fans to stop spinning. It's off. I'm going to press and release. Power light's working. Make sure the hard drive LED is working. Hard drive LED is blinking on and off, so that's on correctly. So both LEDs are on correctly. That's working. Optical drive opens and closes. Let me make sure the front USB ports work. I'm going to grab my utilities flash drive. Oh, that's my Windows 10 flash drive. Grab my utilities flash drive. Let's plug it into the front port USB. Does that work? It opens. Great. I'm going to pull it. Plug it into the next one. Does that open? It opens. Pull it. We're good. I think that's it, folks. I think that's all she wrote. I think Valentine is not going to have any more problems. Valentine has promised when he gets the computer, he is going to update me because he also watches the channel, and he knows that many of you are following along going, well, was Carey right or was Carey wrong? No wagering, please. We're going to know in a few days. We'll know next week. It takes about 5 business days to ship 2,000 miles via FedEx Ground. And I'm going to redo a little bit of the cable management. I'm going to put the panels back on. I'm going to redo the cable management on Ron's computer, which is the one that exposed the Y3K issue. And then I'm going to get that back to Ron. And then I'm going to finish replacing the bad power supply that came back from EVGA, the DOA power supply, on Michael's computer. And then I'm going to do the cable management on the other Michael's computer and try and get both of those out by Friday. And then I've got this laptop here in the meantime where the customer says the data just vanished. All the programs are there, but the data is gone. But they were running Carbonite. So we're going to find out if the hard drive's failing. Is there a virus? Did a Windows update hide their files and create a secondary user account? And they're logging in as another user and they don't realize it. And now they're going to my documents and they're seeing a different user's documents than their own. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Then we have the 3950X back there that I have to finish. And we still have the Xenos build to get back to. Plus I have RoboForm joining us on the show Friday, I think. And then I have Acronis joining us, I think, on the 25th of March. And Acronis, when they're here, will offer you guys a discount for their product. And I'm really going to put some pressure on Acronis to sponsor me. I really want them to sponsor me. I'd be okay with RoboForm sponsoring me too. I would like one big sponsor, one big anchor sponsor, instead of having like 5 little sponsors. But you guys and all of your support today, you're the sponsors of the show. You're it. If you think I'm a sellout, I sold out to you. All right? Think about that. And let me give shouts out to everybody who's contributed while I was working. So my thanks, my sincere thanks, I'm going to go backwards here from the most recent, which is Malicious Code has contributed $9.99. Andrew Brockington has contributed $5. Freak Gamer 301 has contributed £1. Dr. Data has contributed $25. Wow, that's a very nice contribution. Make sure Dr. Data is a moderator in here, and Malicious Code should be a moderator in here too. And Andrew Brockington, are you a moderator? No, you are now. Freak Gamer, you know what? I'm moderator happy today. You're a moderator. You're a moderator. You're a moderator. Oystein contributed 50 Norwegian kroner. Says, I felt the 230 volts here in Europe when I touched the power cable. Youch. Oystein, add moderator. Who else we got? Joe Spindler contributed $10 and says, when I got older, I calmed down. So did I, Joe. And you know what I did? I found a solution. And it's called, hold on, I want to do this dramatically. Cocaine. It's a little energy drink. I think it's hilarious. It's a little energy shot. It's good for like a 5-hour energy. And I know the guy who created this. His name is Jamie. Jamie with a Y, he likes to say. And I just like to tell people I enjoy cocaine. Who wouldn't? It's a nice pick-me-up, cocaine is. Yeah, and it's affordable. Who knew? So thank you, Joe, for your contribution. M. Watson, 1972, has contributed $2. He says, that's a great show, thank you. Ben Stroud, hold on a minute. Is Joe Spindler a moderator? Yes. Is M. Watson, 1972, a moderator? No, you are now. Ben Stroud contributed $10 and is a moderator already. He says, Carey, after the last 10 Windows update last week, all of my photos do not show thumbnails. That may just be something like a bad thumbs.db file. Someone in the chat might have a solution for you to reset that. Free Range Scotto, I mentioned already, 10 Australian dollars. Make sure he is a moderator. Of course, John Craig is a moderator. I'm just going through everybody right now. And M. Watson, 72, had contributed $5 earlier. Gunnar and Gunnar at 50 Norwegian kroner. Make sure Gunnar is a moderator. Richard Angeline with $2. Richard, you're already a moderator. I know Bear Paw's a moderator. Joe Bush should be a moderator. I just did that earlier, right? And Brendan Looney should be a moderator. Yeah, good, good, good. Love it. more and more people are being introduced to blue today. I love adding to the blue army. Paul Mitchell has contributed $3 Canadian. Paul, I enjoy your hair products. 1,068 people watching around the world right now. Why don't you give me a shout out? Tell me where you're watching me from and say hello to Valentine. I see that Valentine is in the chat room and is not a moderator, but he is now. So Valentine, yes. We call him VC because nobody will believe his real name is Valentine Angel. That is his honest to God real name. That is not a handle or a joke. So just give VC a shout out, would you? And tell him where you are watching from. What country are you in or what state are you in? I got to put my cocaine away. Is that joke getting old yet? Hey, you got to market. You got to do what you got to do when it comes to marketing. You can't deny. Makes you want to buy it, right? It worked for me anyway. I can't speak for you. Here we go. Getting the shouts out right now. People from all over the world, from the Netherlands, the UK, North Dakota, Chicago. Oh, maybe if malicious code is close enough, if a worst case scenario and has the skills and is willing, I need to find somebody who can go out there if need be. I think I've nailed it personally, but still, wait a minute, what did I say earlier? Positive thinking, it's going to be fine. It's fine. Edwin watches us from Sullivan, Missouri, and then we've got some folks here from Glasgow, Scotland, Wappingers Falls, New York, Evansville, Indiana, Fargo, North Dakota, Australia, the UK, Darien, Georgia, Yorkshire in the UK, Slovakia, Dallas, Texas, Chester in the UK, Casa Grande, Arizona, Kansas, Lars, wait, where'd it go? Gosh darn it, I hate it when that happens, like it just jumps on me. Lars is watching us from Sweden, of course Paul in Ontario. Ian Smith is joining us from Accrington, UK, and John Peck is in Hertz, UK. Does it? Nobody's ever said that before. Daniel says he's near Baltimore, and a shout out to Valentine. Thank you, Daniel. Stephen Bernstein is in sunny Florida, and Pete Stern joining from Wisconsin. Bear Paw is in Swansea in Wales. David Southern joins us from Portugal, and Todd Long is in Normal, Illinois. That's so tempting, but I'm not going to do it. And I want credit for not doing it, right? Normal, Illinois. I'm an oxymoron. Oh, I did it. I'm sorry, the temptation was too great. I couldn't help myself. Heinrich joins us from Denmark. Rich Robbins, that name sounds familiar. He's in Chandler, Arizona. Joe Vent says hello to VC from Canada, and Tony Wise says hello to Valentine. He says DC, it's VC from the UK. I've seen Tony in here quite a bit lately. I'm going to make Tony a moderator. I don't just make people who contribute financially moderators. I'm looking for familiar faces, familiar names, I guess, and a nice-natured person. That's all it takes to be blue. And I want every single one of you. If I got it my way, if I get what I want every one of you to be blue. And I have no doubt many of you here now that are not yet blue, if you continue to join and you continue to be kind and supportive to each other and not beat your chest and try and prove how smart you are, but just prove how nice you are, you will be blue soon. Arto joins us from Loha, Finland. Right on. Pavel joins us from Slovakia. And Mats Olav Rickardsson, a frequent contributor here, joins us from Sweden. Freedom Flights contributed $4.99. Says, I love your videos. Keep up the good work. You're amazing. Hold on, watch my head. Yeah, you guys better be careful. You might start encouraging me. J-Toy joins us from Chi-Town, and Tim Mathiasen is joining us from Minnesota. See, because it's really cold and snowy, it's Minnesota. It's clever. Jim G shouts out Valentine, and Johnny IT says hello from the UK. Bill Bauer says, hello, Valentine, good luck to you. Andrew is joining us from Duluth, Georgia, and Joel from Denver, Colorado. Joe Martin from Vacaville, California. Shouting out to Valentine. Darloff says hello to Valentine. Bearpaw and Ben Lard. Ben watches us from Scotland. Jim Kenny's in Ontario. And Brett Kennedy's saying hello from the UK with Tree Fitty joining us from Florida. I said, Loch Ness Monster, what do you want? And the Loch Ness Monster looked at me and he said, about Tree Fitty. Some of you will get that. Newfoundland, Canada is where Sven has joined us from, and scroll. Davor joins us from Croatia, and Rudiger Luthi in Virginia. Tony Wise says hello to Valentine from the UK. Did I do that already? I think I'm repeating. St. Lucia is where Arnold Albert is watching from, and Trent Arney is joining us from Australia, the land of death. I didn't see that on the tourism brochures. As a Desmond Cigar joins us from Bangladesh. Sven says, hey boy, Valentine from Newfoundland. I don't know why I did that in a Jamaican. I don't know what's going on today. I got to get your opinion on something, guys. I just want to know, and it may be the energy drink talking. Let's see, video source. I did a little video edit last night that I stumbled on, and I said, I should just cut this little clip because it made me laugh. Is everybody still okay? Are we still there? I hit a wrong button. My bad. Are we okay? Sorry. So that's what that button does. Where are my files? There it is. Okay.
Carey, have you gotten over your food phobia yet?
Not yet. Not ready. Everybody's okay? Because I hit the stop stream button, and I really should turn confirmation on so that doesn't happen again. So we're all here. So I was looking at an old video where Mitch and I have a great time. We've got a great chemistry together. And there was a time when we were harassing some scammer. I was doing the harassing and Mitch was laughing, which only encourages me. So I just was feeling a bit silly, and I thought, I'm going to put together a string of videos of my funniest moments, the things that I think are funny, and just call it Carey Hilarity. And here's a little taste of when things slow down, a little project I think I'm going to put together. And unless you tell me it's awful, and I shouldn't.
Carey, have you gotten over your food phobia yet?
It's not a phobia. Not to you.
Do you know what that question's like asking? It's like asking a deaf person. Have you heard? Can you hear now? Have you gotten over that deafness?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Yeah. It just turned out it was a phase I was going through.
Yeah.
Have you reached 6 foot tall yet? Not yet. I'm working on it every day. Hold on. Anything?
No.
I think I might have pooped a little.
Yeah.
Come on, that was funny, right? Besides that, was funny. Well, I thought it was funny. All right, enough silliness. It should be called Carey Comedy Club. What's a club? I'm seeing some LOLs. I see the LOLs. Oh, you're encouraging me. You want to watch it again? I do too.
Carey, have you gotten over your food phobia yet?
It's not a phobia. Not to you.
Do you know what that question's like asking? It's like asking a deaf person. Have you heard? Can you hear now? Have you gotten over that deafness?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Yeah. It just turned out it was a phase I was going through.
Yeah.
Have you reached 6 foot tall yet? Not yet. I'm working on it every day. Hold on. Anything?
No.
I think I might have pooped a little.
Yeah.
Come on, that just never gets old. I'm going to put that on an endless loop later. There's a question in the chat room. Ken Masudik wants to know how I figured out the date for the Y3K bug. And there was a really clever comment from somebody who was answering another person who asked that question in the comments of that video that said, my guess is he played a game of high-low. And that's exactly what I did. I knew that the date that was set wasn't working. And I knew that the BIOS range said it was 2099. So I immediately knew that it should work through 2099. So I set it to the year 3000, and it didn't work. I mean, I'm sorry. I set it to the year 3000, and it did work. And when I change the date, I have to wipe the partitions on the drive and start the install over. But the Windows 10 installs pretty darn quick. I mean, I knew fairly quickly. And I've got a pad of paper around here somewhere where I was making notes as I was doing it. I don't know what I did with the notes. Well, anyway, I had a piece of paper, and I would write down the date that I was trying and then whether it passed or failed. So 3000 passed. So somewhere between 3000 and 3029, it's not working. So I split the difference, put in 3015, and it failed. So I split the difference and went to 3007, and it failed. And then I split the difference, and I went to 3002 or 3, and it failed. And then I went to 3001, and I think it failed. So it failed on 3001, but it passed on 3000. Then I just whittled my way through the dates. So I noticed the date. No, I didn't. The date didn't matter in 3029. I'm trying to remember. I think I started at 1, and then I went to 12, and then I went to 6, and I just keep splitting depending on pass or fail. Just keep jumping in the middle. And it was probably 15 or 17 installs of Windows 10 over and over and over and over again. And I was really excited. I was like, I'm about to know some information. Now, there's probably an easier way to do that, but I just stuck with what I knew. I didn't want to spend more time experimenting with making an Acronis trimmage and saying if maybe I could get half the install done and restore from there and pick it up from that. I wanted it consistent, regular testing using a known process that I could rely on. And any time I spent trying to figure out where the Windows install was having the issue, was it on the initial install, on the first reboot, or the second reboot, that would have required more time and research. Ultimately, it wouldn't have saved me, likely would not have saved me any time. That's my guess. So I just stuck with this game of high-low until I got it right down to the date. So then I knew it was between January and February, so I set it to January 29th. It froze. January 15th, it didn't. Okay, between 15 and 29, January 22nd, it froze. January 18th, it didn't. January 20th, it froze. I'm only left with January 19th, it froze. Set it back to January 18th, and it worked. So there it is, January 18th, January 19th. It's just math. It's just constant deduction, whittling away. It's just like taking a piece of wood with a knife, and we're just carving away. It requires a little bit of patience. It's important to keep notes so you don't, did I do that one or did I not do that one? I didn't keep notes until I got it narrowed down. I started in a pretty wide range, and then once I started to narrow it, that's when I started to take notes. So, I'm not doing anything here you couldn't have done. You're probably just not mental enough to be like, that's not worth it, man. But I knew if I wanted to get the story published, and so far, the story has been published in Taiwan, in Taiwanese. It's been published in Germany, in German. It's been published in Russian, and the Russian publisher put a picture of Doc and Marty, which I thought was perfect, And then it was published in Italy at 2 or 3 different places in Italian. And it's been published, of course, in English. And I imagine we're going to see more and more awareness about this. And I'm still waiting from a response from Gigabyte. I even went back and looked through my old Gigabyte support tickets. And one of the things I don't like is, I got so frustrated waiting for their response to support But I ended up taking care of the problem myself by, either sending the board back to Amazon or whatever the situation was. And in all of my support tickets, the soonest a Gigabyte has ever responded to a support ticket is 2 days. And the most it's taken them, well, there's only 3 support tickets, is 3 days. So 3 days after I opened the support ticket, 3 full days went by before they responded to me. And that is not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable. Corsair doesn't do that. EVGA doesn't do that. I can't tell you one other manufacturer that I use who does that. I also can't tell you another manufacturer who puts that weird mounting hole in their motherboard that no case manufacturers that I have encountered support, unless Gigabyte makes the case. So Gigabyte's kind of playing by their own rules here, doing what they want. They're not following what the other industry people are doing. And it's really bothering me that they're so bold. And I hope that they see that I'm trying to help them. I hope that they recognize the value of the information to make their computers more secure. Because if Windows is able to change the date in your BIOS without you knowing, we have what is potentially a rabbit hole of a potential serious security issue here. It may be causing a buffer overrun or underrun. I'm not exactly sure why that's happening, but I think a black hat hacker, if this is left ignored, can figure out a way to utilize that as a way to get into your system. If Windows is going to behave that way, it is correctable by Microsoft putting, when they're checking to see if you've got enough processing power in RAM to install Windows 10, it wouldn't be much. I mean, it's 10 million lines of code or something like that in Windows 10. So it wouldn't take but a line or 2 of code, maybe 3 at tops, at least from my days of coding. I think you can do it in 1 line of code to check the system date against the file dates on the installation media. And if it's, 30 years apart, heck, if it's 10 years apart, you might want to issue an alert that it appears you're using a very old version of Windows 10 or your system date may be incorrect. Please either install a more current version of Windows 10 or fix your BIOS, fix the date in your BIOS and start again. It would be very small lines of code to do that check. On the other hand, if Gigabyte actually enforced the rules, they say when you enter the date in the BIOS, it clearly says the date range. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you right now, in case you didn't, if you weren't watching and you don't know what I'm talking about. Let's go back to camera 2. Stick me in the corner again. Get in the corner. Okay, let's turn this back on. This time we're just going to go right into the BIOS. I always use Gigabyte boards, and it appears to me from my conclusion that every single modern Gigabyte board will suffer from this. I don't know why it says the BIOS has been reset, but that's okay. And if we go to System, and we go down here to select the date, so you see right there's the date. It should tell us when I hit Enter, it tells us what the date range is. Where is it? Is it under here? Wrong mouse. Is it under here? There's a little arrow that's hiding some information. My mouse is off. Okay, Carey, get it together, man. Get it together. Whoops. Okay, where was I? I was changing the date. Hold on a minute. Let me get my face out of the way. I got to use the other mouse. Hold on. I'm going to get there, darn it. Okay, up here's got the date. I never change it this way. How do you change it this way? I guess you don't. You got to go to, classic mode? And we go to the date. It says press F1 for help, right? We'll hit F1. It's not here. It's making me a liar. I know on the X570 board, it says right at the bottom, use the date, use tab to switch. Oops. Back to classic. Enter. It's not there. Well, there is a screenshot in one of the articles from the X570 AMD board, where at the bottom of the BIOS screen, it says when you enter the year, there's a little text at the bottom of the BIOS screen that says you may enter from 2000 and whatever all the way up to 2099, but it does not enforce it. So if you do set it to 3020, whatever, 3333, and then save and exit, it will allow you to do that. Now, ASUS motherboards, MSI boards, and other people that have reported back to me with modern motherboards from other manufacturers have confirmed that they are not allowed to exceed 2099. Now, because the problem happens in 3001, they would never ever encounter this. It's just simply not an option. So, with regards to the date, January 18th, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why that's significant, but interesting nonetheless. What I say today was 3 tab 2020, enter, and then save and exit. And then one more time, I'm going to go in the BIOS and check. I don't want to send this to Valentine and be like, hey, this thing won't boot. Actually, I think once you get Windows installed properly, it will boot after that. It's just, it won't install. And then every time you change it, the install keeps putting it back the way it was. So you end up changing every part in the computer. It's a brand new build. You don't understand what's going on. And honestly, if the gentleman who ordered the parts would have simply ordered a brand new motherboard to begin with and instead of trying to save a few bucks, he bought an open box motherboard. And again, I can't stress that enough. Unless you're a very technical person and you're interested in a challenge, potentially, stay away from really cheap stuff. Stay away from returned products because you don't know why they returned. It could be, the return reason could have been something very specific that you don't encounter for a very long time. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a problem just because you didn't see it. Somebody else had a reason for returning that board. Now, for all we know, they just bought the wrong board. They didn't mean to buy it, or they changed their mind, or there's something wrong with it. So if you buy something brand new and you're not a skilled, experienced technician and you want to follow along with my videos, don't make that mistake. Because if this gentleman had just simply bought a brand new motherboard and said, it's only a $100 motherboard anyway, So what did he pay for it open box? $75, $80? And he didn't get a box. Like Amazon put it all in a bag and sent it to him. Amazon said, we don't have a box for this, but it appears to work fine. He's like, that's fine with me to save 20 bucks, right? Or whatever he saved. Whatever he saved, it's not worth it. If they gave him the motherboard for free, still not worth it. And if he would have done it, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but if he would have done that, bought a new board, bought all new parts, he would have done everything he did was correct except that judgment call. That's it. He would have never had a problem. He would have built it. Maybe he would have emailed me and said, hi, Carey, my name's Ron. I watch your videos. You inspired me to build my own computer. And I'm writing this email to you on the computer I built thanks to your easy-to-follow videos. Something like that, whatever. It would have been a completely different outcome is all I'm getting at, right? And I do get those emails. So I'm just saying what the emails say. I'm not saying that. I built my computer and it works. No thanks to your useless videos. I haven't seen that email yet, but now that I've said it out loud, I'm sure there'll be a few who'll jump. Anyway, let's see. Let's close this down. Let me exit this BIOS. Let's see. Let me turn that off for a moment. And let's exit without saving. That's fine, because we already saved it earlier. We're going to see how fast Valentine's computer boots. And once I do the cable management on it, I will boot it up again to make sure I haven't knocked any cables loose. But everything looks good. Windows is activated. He's got Malwarebytes. He's got a 1-year license to that. There's probably an NVIDIA, I'm absolutely certain there's an NVIDIA driver update, which I will apply before I send it back. Otherwise, he should be good to go. All right, we're going to shut that down. We're going to go back to camera 1. So, any Any questions for me, or we're going to wrap it up for today? I'm going to make it an early day so I can get something done, or next time you see me, I'm going to be like up to here at computers. Can you guys see me? So my guess is the whole reason why this happened, and when I tell you to build a computer, I specifically tell you don't go in the BIOS and change anything. Take it out of the box the way it is. Unless you're an experienced technician, there's nothing in there you need to change. You don't know what that stuff is. This is not the time to worry about it. The motherboard manufacturer specifically sets it with defaults. And even setting the defaults in the BIOS won't change the date and time. It just sets the options to the defaulted options. Somebody, the original purchase of the motherboard, this is the only thing that makes sense if we're going to, investigate it and go with, deduction. My guess is probably what's happened. Person bought the board. The person started manipulating the board immediately. As soon as the machine turned on, they went into the BIOS, which I don't advise you to do, and they changed the date because the date's going to be a couple days off, right? Because it's built in probably Taiwan or China, depending on who makes your board, and they're in a different time zone. So it's not going to be too far off, not far enough off to be a problem. Now, once you get Windows loaded and connected to the internet time clock will synchronize your computer's clock to whatever time zone you have selected, and you can have Windows 10 even automatically select your time zone based on your IP address. And then because of UEFI, it can alter that in the BIOS, so you don't have to worry about your BIOS having a different time than Windows. I understand why Windows would do that for you. Now, you don't have to go into the BIOS and do that. So you're just working harder. We're back to that again. So this is what happens when people try to fix things that aren't broken. If that original purchaser had never gone in there and manipulated that and had followed my advice, they wouldn't have had the problem. They had the problem and couldn't figure it out. Something was wrong with this board. I've changed every single part. I'm sure that's what they told Amazon. This is a bad board. Amazon gets it. They probably put a CPU and RAM on it. They see that it posts, and they go, that board works. So they list it in Amazon warehouse deals. And whoever had it must have had it a while to no longer have the box. Like they must have been trying everything to a point where they don't even know where the box is anymore because Amazon didn't have the box. And Amazon still took it back. So Amazon probably does a very basic test. Does it work? Does it not work? Powers on, looks good. Offer it for sale on Amazon warehouse. You, the buyer, go, well, it's $99, but there's one from Amazon warehouse that doesn't have a box. It's $20 off, so it's only $79.99, let's say. May not even have been that much of a discount, but it's got the same warranty. It says if it doesn't work, they'll take it back. What's the harm? This is the harm. What's your time worth? Ron did tell me that Best Buy took, remember, Ron bought a second CPU. I suggested because of the bad CPU, the one that was fraud was purchased from Best Buy by another customer. And then we learned from that customer that Best Buy was, according to Intel, not an authorized Intel CPU seller. I said I wouldn't have bought the CPU at Best Buy. I would have bought the CPU at Newegg or Amazon or somebody who's authorized to sell those chips. Because at that time, it sounded to me like, well, if you change the motherboard and you change the RAM, it's got to be the CPU. I mean, I never see a bad CPU, and it would just figure when I see one, I'll see two, and then I won't see any again. So anyway, he does that, and everything's still the same. And I was like, at this point, I'll pay you to let me fix it because there's nothing else left. And, we found out, if you were there and you joined me, you watched me diagnose it live, you saw it happen, real process of diagnosis. I got there. It took 3.5 hours, but hey, most people wouldn't have gotten there. And then I said, geez, most places won't take back a CPU. That's a $400 CPU Ron's gotten there. Ron said that Amazon took back the original motherboard without a problem, and Best Buy took back the CPU with no problem. So it didn't cost Ron any money. I'm not charging Ron for the repair, and I'm going to fix it up and make it nice and do it my way, with the cable management and make sure Windows is all tuned up and optimized and activated, put malware bytes on there and activate that. And I'm going to bring it back over to Ron, and I'm going to say thank you for doing what you did, because none of us would have known. And who knows how many people this has already affected, but nobody was affected that has the means that I have to warn everybody, right? Like we know what happened to at least one other person. That can't be the first time. It absolutely can't be the first time that's happened. And I'm not suggesting it's happening often, but the number 2 and the number 3, I want you to look at your keyboard. They're right next to each other. So when you're entering that year and you mash down the 2, you might accidentally hit the 3 and not even realize it. And depending on the size of your screen, how far away you are, how much you're paying attention, you may not even notice that that's a 3. Who would have thought the date could be that important before the install? Now, if you've bought a brand new motherboard, there is no reason for you to go in and check it. But if you're buying something used or you're repairing something for somebody else, then you would check it. But brand new out of the box, leave it alone. William Dawson said the same thing that I said. He goes, he's lucky they gave him his money back. He should go buy a lottery ticket. Yeah, I told him he should buy a lottery ticket for even having this problem. What are the odds? Rick Sasbo says, Carey, I ordered from the D7X website. It got the optimizer. I donated there too. Will any of that go to your fantastic channel? Well, donating to D7X is D7X. That's nothing to do with me. But buying the optimizer, yes, D7X and I work together on that. But thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you for supporting D7X, because the tools that Nick creates are very, very useful. And he's been doing this for a very long time, and he even has many of his tools for free. They're not all sold. Many of the tools that he's developed, he gives away. So it's nice that you support him. So thank you for that. Oh, there's DHR Street Speed, traveling around the world as usual. He is in London. Welcome in. Randy says, yep, I fat finger things a lot. Well, I mean, who doesn't? I do it too. Dr. Gregorian, PhDs, contributed £9.99. Thank you. Kevin McDonald says, it's his opinion the root cause is Windows, as it should work with any date. Well, again, if MSI motherboard owners and ASUS motherboard owners and ASRock motherboard owners cannot enter a date beyond 2099, and more often than not, the BIOS says right on it, the range, the allowable range, and they enforce it, then who's the only one not playing by the rules here? Gigabyte. Now, I'm not saying it's intentional, but given that I've been through Y2K, right? I've been there, I've done that. So I thought we learned from that. I was very wrong. Sometimes lessons have to be learned over and over and over again. Sometimes people take shortcuts. And I think Gigabyte took a shortcut that ASUS, ASRock, and MSI did not take. And so I'm putting the blame on Gigabyte on this. But it wouldn't kill Microsoft to add a couple more lines of code just because Microsoft's Windows can change that BIOS state. And because it's able to do that, if the BIOS doesn't reject it, which I believe MSI would never be set that way. So that's an impossible loop to get in, I believe, with MSI, ASRock, and ASUS. The only manufacturer that allows you to do that, to my knowledge, as of today, the 3rd of March 2020, there's only one manufacturer that allows you to do that, and that's Gigabyte. Now, that may be proven wrong in time, but that is the information that I have as I know it through my testing and from what I'm hearing back from viewers like yourselves who have tested this on their own system to see if they're... Look, if you change the BIOS beyond 2099 and you've already installed Windows, it should boot just fine. It won't go... It's only during the installation process that this is a problem. So it's really important on a brand new build that if you're going to use used parts, or you're going to buy open box parts, which are used, usually, you check that date. Who knew it was that critical? Who knew Gigabyte would tell you, you can enter a date from this to this, and you put a date in over here, and they say, okay, well, what was the point of telling me that if you're not going to enforce it? That doesn't make any sense. It's like the speed limit's 55, I'm going to do 80, and a police officer says, okay, go right ahead. What's your job? What do you do? So that, I really believe there's some shared blame here. One might ask, why should Microsoft check for something that should be controlled by the BIOS? Because Microsoft has access to that BIOS. And if that BIOS allows for something, if there's another flaw in that BIOS that we don't know yet, we know Windows can manipulate it, imagine what a black hat hacker could do with that information. Right? This may be, like I said, a little rabbit hole we've opened, little Alice in Wonderland thing here of a world of possibilities regarding cybersecurity, your Windows operating system and your BIOS, and how they're so tightly intertwined. So for Microsoft's customer satisfaction, they should not trust manufacturers to follow the rules and not take shortcuts, because they do. They make mistakes. And so Microsoft should check for those mistakes, because it's not like it's a big thing to add to Windows. It's a small little bit of code. So what? It's not going to, oh, it's bloatware now. If you got room for Candy Crush on Windows 10, you got room to check a date during the install. RoboForm, I'm still negotiating. We're working out a time, negotiating a date and time, but it looks like Friday afternoon is what we're shooting for. This Friday, which is what, March the 7th? Is it the 7th? No, that's too far. March the 6th is what we're looking for right now. Then I'm hoping to bring Acronis back on, bring Begowden from Acronis back on, right around March 25th, I think. Which is a Wednesday. I guess I need some water. I'll let you know when the dates are confirmed, because I want a big turnout, obviously. But the discount code for RoboForm, 60% off. It's under $10 for 1 year of RoboForm. And you can install it on your phone, and your desktop computer, and your laptop, whatever, and then have access to all your passwords wherever you go. It's pretty cool. And they're all secured, and it'll generate secure passwords for you, and you won't have to remember them. Just make sure you take your RoboForm password seriously. Make yourself a really nice passphrase, and make sure, it doesn't matter if it's upper or lowercase, whatever. Just make sure it's at least 12 characters long. Whatever you want to say. Make a sentence without spaces, and remember it. Make that your RoboForm password. And then let RoboForm generate random codes of 14, 18 characters, whatever, for all your websites, especially websites that control any financial data or personal data, like your email. And then that way, you'll stay secure. And you won't have to be like, what was that password again? You don't want your browser to save your password. You know, your browser will say, you want me to save this password? The easier it is for you, the easier it is for the hackers. So a hacker can very easily grab all those stored browser passwords. That's super easy. Like, if you saw how easy it was, you would never answer yes when the browser says, you want me to save your login information? Hey, that sounds convenient. And the criminals are like, yeah, that is convenient. Thank you. Use RoboForm. $10. Less than $10 this month. For you guys only. They never do this. I'm telling you, when they told me what they were going to do, it's like, really? That's not what I thought you were going to do. I thought they were going to give you about 30% off. They doubled it. So it's kind of a big deal. How many $200 are in your house? More than enough. I think I see something about somebody having a keyboard issue on a laptop. Basically, what you want to do is just grab yourself a USB keyboard. You buy them at the store, buy them on Amazon, any price. I've seen them at Fry's Electronics for $1.99, and plug it in and see if that fixes it. Otherwise, you're looking at probably a costly repair if it's out of warranty. So I would just plug a USB, even a keyboard like this Wi-Fi, little USB dongles, $30, problem solved, move on with life. Marty's in the house. Hey, Marty contributed $5. Thank you. And Ken Masudik has contributed $2. He says, great. Great show, Carey. Happiness is a solid bug. Right on. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else's contributions? Marty, let's see. Wilhelm Gordon contributed $10. Says, great show. Your show is the best on YouTube. Marty contributed $10. And then I think that, Coggen contributed £2. It says, just sent you an Amazon e-card for $100. Wow, that's very generous. Thank you, Coggen. Rick Hubbard contributed £3 and says, hi, Carey and chat. Dr. Gregorian, PhD, contributed £2.99. Luzian65 contributed £2 and says, you are the guru. Freak Gamer 301 contributes £2 and says, I built my first i7 and ran into a bad CPU problem. Lottery ticket. Steve Devine contributed $2. Says, thank you for all you do. Thank you, Steve. Freedom Flights contributed, I guess love your videos. Keep up the good work. You're amazing. Thank you. Dr. Data contributed $5. He goes, here's $5 more. Let's make it an even 30. Oh, right on, because he gave a $25 contribution earlier. And then I think that catches us up. Ken's a moderator, Marty's a moderator, Wilhelm is a moderator, Dr. Gregorian's a moderator, everybody's a moderator. Moderators. Where are the moderators? We're going to get capes. So, I got a used front panel header here. Anybody want to buy it? Maybe I'll list this as an open box item on Amazon. Yeah. Arnold wants to know, when did I use the reset button? I don't think I did use the reset button. You want me to test it? I don't. The reset button's not ever mission critical, but it would be proper and thorough for me to make sure that the reset button works. So, good call. Let's check it and see. Everything's still hooked up. So all I have to do is turn this back on. And then I'll hit delete to go into the BIOS. Keep mashing that delete key. And now I'm going to hit the reset button. Yeah, let's say it works. Usually things work. It's pretty unusual when they don't. But if they don't, it's typically because I don't have the connector on all the way, stuff like that. So yeah, it's good to check. It's always good to check, especially when that computer's going so far away. And I will check everything again once the cable management is done. I take that all far more seriously. Like I'll check the basics before I do the cable management, but I don't check everything. Like the USB ports, they're probably going to work. It's pretty rare they don't. Then I do all the cable management, and then I make sure that I didn't damage anything. Or by damaging, I mean I didn't tighten any cables so tight that they're pulling out of the connectors, or that the nylon zip ties are so tight they're biting into the cable and could cause a short, which I don't do that. So yeah, so it's just a little finesse. You want to tighten those nylon zip ties up, but don't tweak them down. That's ridiculous. Just help keep everything grouped together nice and neat. Nice little categories of cables. Was the reset button ever used? What's its purpose? Well, in the earlier days of Windows, it was pretty frequent in DOS, even if we go back before Windows, for software coding it's more art than science. And the more complex software gets, and there's a lot of reasons why a computer might freeze. It may not always be software. You could have some technology that's not quite compatible or has a problem. It could be heat related or a controller issue where, for the most part, solid state technology either works or it doesn't work. But every once in a while, you run into something where you got maybe a cold solder joint or a part that's not quite sitting flat, or a part that's somewhat internally damaged because everything's so microscopic now when it comes to most of the circuitry that it doesn't take a lot to cause damage. However, it's an automated building process now. It used to be human beings on assembly lines would sit with soldering irons putting parts on and could have a good day, a bad day, a productive day, a non-productive day. Machines are now automating this and they can run 24/7 and everything is precisely done the same. And then they have lasers as it goes to the assembly line, scan the board and take pictures of it and compare it to images to see if everything's in alignment and correct, or it kicks it out, which is hard to believe it could ever be incorrect because the machine should always do it right the same way. But if the human being loads the machine wrong, I was at Wendy's the other day and I couldn't get the napkins out of the napkin dispenser. Do you know why? Someone loaded the napkins in backwards. The little thing you pull for the napkin to come out was in the part that you couldn't reach. So you had to stick your hand in the hole of the dispenser and grab some napkins and pull them out. And normally, that's not the biggest issue I have in the world. And I don't want to be that guy, but I was just having a day. And the girl behind the counter was so helpful. I just politely said, hey, listen, when you have some time, somebody loaded the napkin holders 180 degrees reverse, and they're really hard to get out. She goes, thank you for letting me know. I'll fix it. And I said, okay. So anyway, the reset button is there because when the computer freezes, due to these examples I've given you of sometimes maybe somebody loads the machine wrong, but back in the day, again, everything was done by hand and problems more likely, and the technology wasn't as mature and things weren't, we had compatibility, but compatibility is getting better and better and better. The machine would freeze. Now, in the days of the original AT-style computers, you had a physical on-off switch. It was its own switch, and it would kerchunk, and that would turn it off, and it would go kerchunk, and it would turn it on. It was a momentary contact, or sometimes no, it was not. It could have been a momentary contact switch that would stay in when you pushed it in, and when you pushed it in again, it would pop out. But before that, it was a physical toggle switch. It was a big, on the cases I worked on at TriStar Computers, the power switch was this wide and this tall, and it rocked. Okay, if you can picture that. And it went click on, click off. So if your computer froze, there was a reset button and you can hit that. And what started happening is that people were hitting the reset button with their knee, or they would bump the computer, and then they started to recess the reset button, requiring you to insert a pin or a pen, the tip of a pencil, so you wouldn't accidentally press it and cause your machine to restart when you're in the middle of working on something. And it was kind of a pain in the butt. Flip the switch off. Now the back of that switch had 4 cables that had those, you guys probably know, like spade connectors. So the back of the switch had a piece of metal like this, and then you would manually take the power supply cable and slide each of the power switch cables, and there were 4 of them, 2 next to 2, and you had to put them on in the right order. It's very important because they were live with 120 volts coming straight out of the wall. So if you didn't unplug that computer, and I might have done this once, and you're like in a hurry, you, not me, so you're in a hurry, and you grab the pliers because you got a customer in 1992 who bought a computer, it's the weekend, so the warehouse is closed, but the retail store that's attached to the warehouse is open for customers. And let's just say you're like, oh, that's easy, that's a bad power supply. Power supply is this big, kind of shaped, it was like wide and then it went narrow. It weighed probably 8 to 10 pounds. Same 4 screws hold it in that hold in power supplies today. Same little 4, screws are the same number of screws, 1 in each corner, but they were holding a lot more weight back in the day. And there was usually a design in the case, like a support beam, that the cases were all made of steel, and then that would support the weight of the power supply, so all the weight wasn't put on those little tiny screws. And then you're like, oh, it's a bad power supply. I'll grab my pliers because, I plug it in. I verify the customer's problem in 1992. Flip, 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 flip. Yeah, it's a bad power supply. Where's my pliers? I grab my needle nose pliers to start yanking those spade connectors off. And big boom, an arcing little meteorite goes flying across the room, and all the power in the building goes out, and the electrician or the janitor is not there on the weekends. So, I mean, I only did it that one time. I mean, I did learn. I didn't do it again. And the pliers had a little piece missing out of them from that day forward as a reminder to me, slow down, make sure that damn thing's unplugged, and don't listen to what people on the internet say, though there was no internet that was publicly available to residential people, like unless you were at a college or government facility. But now you've got people, oh yeah, you can work on it when it's plugged in. No, there's no benefit to that. You got to be grounded. No, not for electrostatic discharge, you don't. Yeah, you do. Okay, you know what? You do. I don't. How about we just, what do you want to hear? I wasn't electrocuted. The manufacturer of the pliers was smarter than me, and they had rubber handles. I never felt it, but it was like a firecracker went off right in my face, because it's like eye level, and I had shorted out the 120 volts by twisting the pliers or bending grabbing the pliers and using the switch itself as a fulcrum to pull the spade connector off, because they were on tight and there was 4 of them, and hit another one of the spade connectors, and that's no different. It's straight 120 volts right out of the wall. So the new ATX brought in the momentary switches, which allow on and off, instead of the full contact switch, or full open, full closed switches. And then the power supplies are now a third of the size that they used to be. They're better, they're more accurate, they're more power efficient, they're lighter weight, they're less expensive, and they produce more power. So we've evolved. But things have changed, and so the reason we had the reset switch was the frequent lockups. They were very frequent. It was not uncommon, and it's just a lot more convenient to just push a button and flip the thing off, wait for the fans to stop, and then flip it back on. If you flipped it off and on again too fast, you'd power spike the system and you could damage the board. So you were taught, if you're going to turn it off, leave it off for a couple seconds and then turn it back on, or just hit the reset switch for instant gratification. So, what would you do? You hit the reset switch. Well, now we very rarely have issues like that. Control-Alt-Delete wasn't really a thing in DOS, So we, or was it? No, I'm not sure anymore. I don't think it was. They picked Control-Alt-Delete because it was unlikely that you would ever hit those 3 keys at the same time unless you intended to. So they tried to separate, they tried to say, if we want to do a reset through the keyboard, we don't want somebody like leaning on the keyboard or not paying attention and knocking it and having their computer reset. So, and remember, it's just a bunch of nerds sitting in a room. It's not like they did a case focus group study or anything like that. They just said, yeah, this seems unlikely. It stuck, and we still have it today. But there are cases made today that don't have reset switches at all. And it's pretty rare anybody needs to use one anymore. It kind of depends what generation you're in and what you learn to do. But when it's taken away as an option, I really don't think most people miss it. I do believe the gentleman who sent me his computer a couple of years ago that had the bad reset switch, it looked like that reset switch had been pushed a lot. And you can't help but wonder why. Why do you keep pushing that? You should very rarely need to do that. And I never really discussed it with the customer, because the customer should be able to hit that switch as much as they want. Those switches should be good for hundreds of thousands of clicks before they fail. But every once in a while you get a bad one. And who gets the bad one? The guy who uses it a lot. Because the person who never uses it doesn't know they've got a bad one. See how that works? Okay. And I'm sure it was irritated. You know, it was probably on the edge, and through using it and using it and using it, it just took it over the edge and it was flaky. That same case could have gone to somebody else who very rarely ever pushed that button and maybe never, you know, because the button was on the edge. And when they over and over and over used it, and you can tell because the paint was coming off of the front of the case, it doesn't mean the customer was doing anything wrong. Customers should be able to hit that reset button as long as they want to. It's what it's there for. But the software and the compatibility of the hardware shouldn't require you to do that very often. And so the younger generation, they're kind of, you know, they don't know that older world, so they don't use it. And if it's not there, they don't miss it. So some case manufacturers are removing the reset switch, and it reduces the cost of their manufacturing. It's less complex, less wire, less switch. And you know, some are even removing the hard drive LED, which I think is stupid. You know, give me the hard drive LED and keep the power LED. One of my sister's complaints with Thready is the power LED is the hard drive LED. There's a green light around the top of the NZXT case, and it blinks off and on when the system's running and the hard drive is the solid state drive, the RAID array, is reading and writing. And she goes, it's the thing that annoys me the most because the light is on top and it lights up the whole room and it just flickers and it's really distracting. And I'm like, you know, you can just reach in the case and pull the little hard drive LED cable off the motherboard, because remember, there's no case panels on it. If you find that annoying, it's loud enough, you'll know when it's on. But some of these systems I build, they're so quiet. Customers will tell me, the only way I know it's on is the power LED is on. That's not an issue with Thready. Although, admittedly, Thready gets loudest at initial power on, and then when taking on a big rendering job, it'll start to ramp up. But under normal web surfing, Microsoft Office, it's louder than what I build normally, but it's not intolerable. But it would be intolerable if I was trying to stream with it, because you guys would be like, are you in a wind tunnel? What's that? What's that staticky sound? And I'd have to explain that that's the streaming computer. So the streaming computer has to be quiet, and the microphone picks it up. And of course, when the streamer gets warm, the fans spin up and they make more noise. So it's not like it's one steady sound. It's constantly, never stops. It's like, oh. So you can imagine my disappointment with Thready. But my sister is loving it. And she says Adobe After Effects is slow on it. But I'm thinking that's the Vega 64 card. I bet if we put an NVIDIA RTX in there, I don't know yet, but we're going to figure this out. Has Thready had the side panels on it yet? Not yet. We want to make sure that everything's good with Thready. And if she likes it, she knows how to do the cable management, because I don't want to do it. And then she can call me and tell me when it's ready, and I'll bring the panels over to her house and put them on. And then it'll be a little quieter, it'll look a lot nicer, and I'll have those side panels out of my way. And then I will retrieve it from her, and you know, we'll sort of come back and revisit Thready. And you know, you guys will know, you'll get updates on Thready on what's going on. Somebody says, put electrical black tape over the light. Well, if you do that, well, I guess you could still press the button. You'll have to kind of guess where the button is under the tape. And then it's going to leave a sticky residue behind forever. So I wouldn't do it, because at some point we're going to want to reuse the case, or we're going to want to do something with it. It's not like the case is going to biodegrade anytime soon. And when you use electrical tape, it leaves a residue behind. And the longer that electrical tape stays on there, the harder it is to get it off. And then when you use the solvent to get it off, it'll quite often start taking off the paint. So I don't really think a $4,000 computer should have electrical tape on it. But I might be a little bit of a snob like that. Darren says, hey, Carey, I'm watching a live show for a change. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Darren. John Yasudas contributed $15. He says, that's a great diagnosis, Carey. Have some Coke and chips on me. You know, that's your graphics card, John. You know that, right? That was what we're giving to Valentine is the GTX 980 Ti. I think I'm remembering this. That's right? You had two of these bad boys in your X99 that you sent to me, and it's like, you can keep that. I'm like, thank you. And Tony Wello, who's in the chat, got the repaired X99 that you contributed, John, minus one of the graphics cards. I think Tony got one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember which one he got, but he had to have one. And then this was the other one, the 980 Ti, and that's going to Valentine, a disabled American veteran who fought in Vietnam. And Valentine was a mil-spec electronics technician, so yeah, it's not too shabby, very respectable. And I had another person in Minnesota reach out to me and said, you know, I'm a Vietnam veteran too, and I live in Minnesota, and I'd be happy to help Valentine if he isn't too far away. And I was like, well, I can pretty much tell you, no matter where you are in Minnesota, more than likely he's very far away. And he is. He's very far away. But it was really nice for a viewer to reach out to me like that and make, I mean, who does that? That's a very old school thing to do. Kids of today, that's really cool. It was really nice. It's the thought that counts. Besides, we got it fixed now. It'll be fine. Positive thinking. Radix1912 has contributed 100 to CZK. If Carey says, ask me how I know, it's personal XP. Personal experience. Aha. Old Dungeons and Dragons term. How many XP points you got? Letting my nerd show. And I will tell you, for you overclockers, computers used to have a turbo button on them. I swear to God, it's true. And if you wanted your computer to go a little faster, you'd hit that turbo button. But some software ran too quickly and would crash or wouldn't run properly if you went from 12 megahertz to 16 megahertz. And it wasn't designed to run at 16 megahertz, so you'd unturbo it for those applications that would crash when you know, hey, slow down there, Speedy. Whoa! 12 megahertz ought to be fast enough for anybody reasonable. So yeah, that was a thing. You're like, well, if it had a turbo button, why would you not run it at 16? That's why. It was very clear. It's pretty darn obvious. Most of the time you could keep it pushed in, but every once in a while it'd be a program. It could be a game, playing Lemmings, you know, you push the turbo button, get a little more frames per second. Samuel Ramos has contributed $20. He says, for my favorite tech, another job well done, Carey. No, I don't think you're mental. You said it, not me, LOL. Well, that's nice of you. Thank you. Eduardo Turan has contributed 20 Mexican pesos. He says, are internal PC buzzers no longer important? Well, that depends who you ask, right? In all my experience, I have never, let me rephrase, let me think about how I want to say this. Throughout my professional experience of nearly 3 decades of fixing computers of numerous generations, going all the way back to a TRS-80 Model 1 from Radio Shack, an Atari 400, Atari 800. And then my earliest PC was my father's 8086 IBM PC XT or something. I can't remember what it was called. That's when I first, and you know what I did with it? I didn't play games on it. I sorted through my brother's 45 record collection and created a database, like a spreadsheet, of song title and artist, side A and side B, and went through every single record and then alphabet, it automatically could sort it, alphabetically by name or, artist, title. And then I had all the records, they were all sort of in a shoebox or like a Tupperware thing, and they were all alphabetical. I don't know if it was by artist, probably by artist. And it was something to do. So I was coding and data entry, creating databases when I was 15 years old because I was bored. In high school was horrible, and there was nothing to do. Watch TV. There's 4 stations to watch. Actually, we did have cable back then, but it only had it was all crap. It didn't have as many channels. But anyway, it was very enjoyable to get the feedback. You got to remember, for those of you that are younger, that this is every day for you. You didn't know life without it. It was pretty incredible to experience like a graphic moving across the screen without flicker, or to see 16 colors. We would go from just a green, green text or amber, it kind of looks orange text, to 8-bit color and 8-bit sound. PC sound, it was crap. It was all through the PC speaker. It was just one tone. Well, several tones, but I think 4 channels, and one was just noise. So it would just be, that's one channel. And then clever musicians that were also coders would use that as like drums. So when Atari came out, and they had the 8-bit Atari, the sound was the most amazing thing. In fact, even in the arcades, the first arcade game I played was called, this is going to be a memory for some of you, and you'll have no idea what I'm talking about for others. It was called Astro Blaster. Now, I had seen people playing arcade games, things like Asteroids and Space Invaders, and I don't know, there's probably a couple other Star Castles, something like that. Those were out, but they just didn't look, they looked kind of boring and stupid. But Astro Blaster talked. Warp drive engaged. I'm like, ooh. Can I have a quarter, Mom? Can I have $1? And that hooked me. I was so fascinated by that. And you can YouTube Astro Blaster, and you can see video captures of the game, and that's the game, and that's what I played, and I was good at it. So then I learned about Galaxian, which was like Space Invaders, but wasn't so boring. Stuff was moving all over, a lot was going on, stars were moving in the background. And that became so popular that the Midway, the company that makes it, Namco, developed it into the next generation called Galaga. And Galaga took off like a rocket. And if I were to hook up my arcade machine to the screen capture and turn that on right now, we're going to be here a while. Because it's like riding a bicycle. It's like I got right back into it, and it's no different. I can easily get to like level 25 minimum, right? That's when things start getting a little crazy above level 25. And it's pretty rare that I run into anybody these days that can go beyond that. I know they're out there, but they're not common. But it's so rewarding to know that I haven't lost it. I can go, 18, 24 months not play the game, and then play it the first time and get right to the mid-20s in the levels. And it takes about half an hour to get that far. So what I was going at is that this was all new. There was nothing really the only thing you were comparing it to, now we had full color. And then this game came out called Marble Madness. And Marble Madness, you had sort of this marble that would roll on the screen was sort of, it was flat, but the picture was put on an angle, so your perspective was skewed. And the idea was you had to keep your marble on this platform and not roll it off by spinning the ball. And if you spun it too aggressively, you'd lose control of the ball and it'd fall off the edges. And then there was a timer running, so you had a certain amount of time. Sometimes the screen would move on the bigger levels, and if your ball was too slow, then the screen would just cover it up, and you're done. Your guy's dead. But what was amazing about the game wasn't just the angle, the perspective of it. And Zaxxon was another game where the angle was kind of weird. But what was unique about Marble Madness was it was the first arcade game that had 16-bit audio. I want to say it was 16-bit audio. It was the most amazing audio you ever heard come out of a machine, right? I remember when, the Sound Blaster card was everything you ever wanted, and then they said, we got the Sound Blaster AW64 at CES, special price. It's in stereo now. Stereo. It's in stereo. You see you kids today, you won't get that excitement. It's like, oh, did you see the new app? Oh yeah, what's that do? Oh, you can have stuff delivered. Oh, cool. It's an app. Well, anyway, this was nothing to compare it to. There was nothing we'd heard like it. It was just the coolest thing we'd ever heard. So it was a very exciting time to see that because you had nothing. The only thing you had to compare it to was the crap that came before it. And that crap was good until you saw what they did next. And then you went, oh, that's crap now. I mean, when you see Dragon's Lair, you have to understand nobody had ever done anything like that before. It was an incredible, out-of-the-box thinking moment. And Don Bluth, the cartoonist who came up with that in Space Ace, I think he lives here in Scottsdale, Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. I think his studio's here. He's still alive and well and still draws, as far as I know. I had sent him an email, I don't know, I reached out to him maybe last year, 2 years ago, and I never got a response. I tried. Mark Lucen contributes €5. Jonathan Mayberry contributed £10. He says, I love this channel, Carey. The people are so genuine. I hope so. I hope so. And at the very least, I hope they're nice. Did I burn my hand? No, I've got, in the wintertime I get really dry skin and I should be putting lotion on, and I'm a man. I'm an old school man. And I should have rough skin because I'm a rough kind of guy. Put the lotion on. I know, I'll get around to it. Michael Martin says, Carey, I made a little contribution via your PayPal link. Your stream on the Y3K bug was very informative. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Rich Robbins said, we only hit the reset switch when the computer locks up, and I've never hit the reset button on my new box. It's never locked up. Yeah, it's just sort of an old hanger-oner. Is that a thing? Eddie says his Fantech case only has a power LED. Yeah, well, we had that RGB case, right? They added all the LEDs, Silverstone, was it the LDO4 or something? But they took away the hard drive LED. I'm like, so you added a bunch of lights that weren't necessary, and then you took away a light that is. Why would you take lights away? That didn't make any sense on an RGB case. Add more lights. That's what they wanted. So that was one of the first times I ran into a case without a hard drive LED. I thought it was ironic. So the case with all the RGB lighting and the glass side panel doesn't have, the designer of that case thought, you know what? That's just one LED too many. These are here for show. That one actually conveys information. So let's get rid of that one. I wanted to meet the engineer, but they said he didn't work for Silverstone anymore. And before I asked, no, it had nothing to do with his decision to remove the hard drive LED. He already knew where I was going with that. Cracked me up. Tony over at Silverstone is a good guy. Let's see. Gary Tatum's contributed $5. He says, I just got the Gigabyte Aorus Z390 Master with an Intel 9900K. And he's got the parts, and he's a little bit intimidated. Well, there's only one way to get over that, Gary. Get to work. It's just Legos, man. If everything's new and you follow my steps, it's really easy and you're going to want to do it again. It's quite a thrill. Kevin says it's weird you can get over 1,000 live viewers talking about random stuff. I'm not just sitting here making stuff up. I'm talking to you guys. We're talking. It's supposed to be interactive. If you want to interact, this isn't TV, man. If you're treating it like TV, then you should be surprised. But if you're treating it as YouTube, and the point of this is that we can talk together right now, as people tend to do, I don't understand why there's only 1,200. Did Coca-Cola withdraw their sponsorship? Nobody's sponsoring Coke. I mean, Coke's not sponsoring me. I'm sponsoring them. Let's make sure we clear that out right now. Space Quest from Sierra. Yeah, Sierra Online. Was that Roberta? What was her name? Roberta. It was a husband and wife. Well, that's a fascinating story. You hear about how they used to party and drink, and they didn't do any software design. A coder would just decide, I'm going to write a game, and then he would just write it, and then he would show the boss, go, here's what I got. I'm like, okay, looks good. Let's go sit out in the jacuzzi and drink. Okay. But when the coders would code, they wouldn't stop till they were done. They'd sleep under their desk. It was very passionate. It was like, oh, this is so cool. I can't believe what I'm making. It's exciting. And then they'd make it, then they'd be exhausted, and then they wouldn't work for 2 or 3 weeks. They'd just party. And I got an idea. And then once the idea struck, they just coded. Pizza, Mountain Dew. Those were great times, man. Great times. I wish I was a part of it. I really do. I feel like I missed out. If I had been raised in the Bay Area of California, I just wonder what could have been. Ah, well. Blue Dog Ron wants to know, have all the H370, H3 motherboards that you've gotten lately from Amazon had the BIOS so it will accept the Gen 9 CPU? Yes. Yes. And I'm buying them from Amazon, from a Prime. It's got the Prime logo. If it doesn't have the Prime logo, I'm not buying it. Marty Wells contributed $10. Thanks again, Marty. Coca-Cola needs to give you a fully stocked Coke machine for free? Yeah. Where's that going to go? It'd be a nice thought, but I don't know how big of a house you think I live in, but I'm being pushed out by computers right now. And then I'm going to be pushed out by somebody else. So, yeah, don't give them any ideas. What I need from them is sponsorship, not a Coke machine. Roberta Williams. Pavel's got it right. That's correct. That's going to earn Pavel moderator status right there. What was the guy's name? Ken. Ken and Roberta Williams created Sierra Online. It just, see that? Just triggered it. The synapses just fired off. Sherry says she was hooked on Pac-Man in the 80s. So guys like me said, that's a pattern game. If you memorize the patterns, there's no skill involved in it. All you got to do is, the same with Dragon's Lair too, except it was cool because it had cartoon. But and even Donkey Kong. With Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, when they were initially introduced, it wasn't like Space Invaders or Missile Command or those other games. These games, if you knew go up, go left, go right, go down, go up, go left, go up, if you could remember that, and it was just one-handed, you just had one hand doing nothing, and the other hand, it was a very simple, basic thing. And if you could memorize the patterns, then you didn't have to have any skill, any gaming skill. So there was kind of a snobbery among some of us in the arcades that the Pac-Man players and the Donkey Kong players just memorized the moves. But when I'm playing Galaga, I don't know what's coming next. But there was a cheat. Like if you had like one guy left on the first level, and you let him drop and you just avoid him for like 10 whole minutes, which is forever, then eventually they just stop shooting at you. And then you kill them, and from every level forward, they don't shoot at you. But there's no respect in that. I mean, there's respect in discovering it and uncovering an Easter egg before the internet, right? But what's the challenge of the gameplay? Look how far I got. Well, yeah, they weren't shooting at you, dummy. It's cheating, last I checked. Good for you for exposing it, but bad on you to brag that you're skilled. I mean, you might, if you're the one who discovered the cheat, you're skilled in that area, but clearly, let's play the game the way it's meant to be played. Let's see who wins between you and me. So there's a lot of bravado and a lot of pride, because quite frankly, that's all I had. Just hold on to what you got in both hands. Everybody's got their thing, right? Rich Robbins' Spy Hunter on Xbox was on. I enjoyed the music in Spy Hunter. The sit down, it was one of those arcade games you could sit down and dun 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 dun. It was playing Peter Gunn, and it was kind of Knight Rider-ish, and you could drive in the back of a truck and stuff, a semi-truck. It was pretty cool. For its time, it was incredible. Donnie says, how about sponsorship and a Coke machine and 8.2 liters worth of Coke a day? Well, then I think you're just trying to kill me. Take that, kidneys. Take that, you pancreas. Why are his kidneys brown? I think they've been dyed. How did you dye your kidneys? Rich says, who are you kidding? You'd find a place for a Coke machine if it had free Coke in it. Yeah, I would. That's true. That's true. David Griswold's contributed $5. He goes, hey, Carey, every little bit helps. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all you do, and teach us. I'm willing to teach, and I'm willing to learn. Oh, hey, listen, I just thought of that. So we're building a computer for Madi, computer number 4. And Madi is looking for something different for his case. He's got the Be Quiet Pure Base 700, and it's just very large. He loves it, but it's big and it's heavy. And he wants something, first of all, it doesn't have a glass side panel, doesn't have any RGB, and he's already got a Corsair 200R. Does anybody have any suggestions for Madi? It doesn't have to worry about whether or not it can accept any front port. You know, it doesn't matter if it can take like a DVD or whatever. He doesn't care about that. If it can, great. If it can't, that's fine too. He's looking at a Fractal Design R6, and it's so boring. It's just boring. It's boring. It's not bad. I mean, it's built well, and it's boring. Does anybody have any suggestions for Madi for a case that has no glass side panel and no RGB and isn't, a Cosmos 2 or, it's not huge? Something, mid-size, somewhere around a Corsair 200R size or, whatever. Because I'm having a hard time thinking of anything, but maybe one of you out there has a suggestion, and if so, Pavel says he's got an R6 and it's amazing. Look, obviously people like it, people are buying it, but I look pictures at it and I'm just like, there's just nothing to look at. It's just like the monolith from 2001. I want to put a bone next to it. Oh, kind of boring. Blah. I'm sure it's well built, I'm sure it's easy to work on, and I'm sure it's a good value for the money. Just blah. Yeah. Sharon says avoid fractal design. I haven't had any problems in the fractal design cases. But that looks like we found something that splits our community. A lot of people like them, a lot of people don't. Darloff says, I love the Cosmos 2, but I'm weird. No, don't get me wrong. I like the Cosmos 2. I just don't want to pick it up and have to ship it. It took 2 people to pick that case up that I built in the Cosmos 2. I couldn't lift it by myself. Certainly not with my bag. Red Dragon's contributed $5. Thank you, Red Dragon. He says, I still love playing Final Fantasy VIII to this day. What about the Be Quiet Pure Base 600? Yeah, I said the same thing. I even recommended the Pure Base 500. It's a little smaller, a little bit smaller. But the 600 and 500 are almost the same size. But yeah, so we looked at those already. I'm trying to think of something else. Ramon says, Corsair Carbide Series Spec Omega. Is that the big square one? Because I don't want the double wide. It's too much like a trailer. Well, look, it's really what Madi wants. I'll build whatever he wants, but that thing where the power supply goes on the left and the motherboard goes on the right, I mean, if that's what he wants, I'll build it, but I don't know. John Yasuda contributed $2. He says, you missed my previous donation in question. Let's go back, because if I missed one, I probably missed several. Mario L contributed $10. Jeff0000 contributed $2, and Monty contributed $2. Majestic White Tiger contributed $6 New Zealand dollars. Says, I love the show, Carey. Keep up the awesome work. I used to do this work full time, but I had to give it up when I became a sole parent. Fun times. Well, I think what you're doing is more important. Oh, there it is. John Yasuda, he says, glad my parts are going to good people that can use them. They would just have been sitting as spares if I had them. What happened to the 1,000-watt PSU? That power supply, funny you should ask, because I'm using that in Xenos. The Xenos build has that, it's the 1,000-watt one I used in Xenos, right? No, it's the HX1200. That was yours, wasn't yours the HX1200? Because I have the EVGA 1,000-watt G2 on the 3950 back here, but I think I bought that new. John, I think you had the HX1200. I don't know. I see so many computers, I might be confused. More so than normal. John Cusson is suggesting NZXT white glass panel. Again, he doesn't want a glass panel. No glass, no RGB. So if you would consider that. 300R is another great mid-tower case. Yeah, I think I worked on one of those a long time ago. Can't remember anymore. It doesn't ring any bells. I have to search through my videos. Peter Almasy says, what about a fractal design focus? You can even choose the color of the case. Ooh. Yeah, we might need to look at Fractal Design's website. Madi. When I say we, I mean we. See if anything there rings your bell, let me know. Good suggestion. Charcoon, they don't sell Charcoon cases in the United States. Not that I'm aware of. Hugh Wong has contributed $2. Says, hi, Mr. Master Carey. Big plans tonight. Just working, man. Where's Mitch? That's what Ramon Rodriguez wants to know. Well, Ramon, that earns you moderator status, my friend. I don't know. I took him off the leash, so I'm sure he's out running and gallivanting around the yard somewhere. My dog Spots. I'd like to find a camo computer case. Well, Corsair had that military style, what was the case? Somebody here probably knows it. It kind of looks like an ammo box. And a camo paint job is pretty easy to do. Like, I think even I could do that. What about the Deep Cool Gamer Storm Quad Stellar? That's going to be, that's that triangle case, right? That's going to, no. No. Monty doesn't want anything exotic. He just wants something different. Let me be clear on that. something complicated to maintain and upgrade. Well, your motherboard's on this side, and your power's over here, and your cabling goes through the center, and then this goes up there, and that goes down there. Like, what were they thinking when they built this? Well, that's upside down, but that's how the video card goes in upside down, and it connects. It looks cool. Yeah, we're not looking for that. Lance says he's got the Fantex N-Through Pro with the solid side panel, but it's a full tower. Yeah, I did the N-Through. It's a big, solid, heavy. Yeah, so if Monty is saying the Pure Base 700 is big, he's not going to like the N-Through. No. Although they do have a smaller model of N-Through, don't they? Oh, speak of the devil. There's Mitch right there. So Mitch is right here. John Yasuda says, hey, that's my bad. You're right. My memory is going LOL. So that is your power supply in Xenos. Isn't it amazing that one system you donated, how it sort of, those parts kind of migrated out into like 3 or 4 different computers? As far as I know, Tony's happy with the X99. And when I told him if he wasn't, I didn't want to hear about it. You know? Those things are so unreliable. But I'm assuming no news is good news on the X99. It's a little too early for it to break. Give it a year. It'll be done. Not because of anything Tony's doing. It's an X99. It's what they do. In my experience, I'll tack that on. Carey, do you use smart glasses? No, don't need them. Already smart. Put them on and they didn't work. Can you help me diagnose my glasses? No. You know what they called those people, right? They called them glass holes. Ryan Farmer's contributed £5. He said, what about an Antec NSK 4100? Seems to fit the bill. Oh, gosh, Antec's cases are so wonky, cheap. They used to be good quality cases, and they went to this really super thin sheet metal and were trying to hit a low price point. And I got so turned off by them, I just kind of took them out of my even consideration. I don't know that they don't have better quality cases now, but boy, they were just racing to the bottom. Used to use nothing but Antec power supplies and cases in the late 90s and early 2000s. Used a lot of them. And then the quality, they raced to the bottom. And I think it was a big, big mistake. Modeling 101 says Corsair Carbide 275Q. Doesn't that have a window on it? What are GPU temps like in that case? They're not, why would I look? Who cares? If it's having problems, we'll look and see if there's temperature issues. But I'm not going to go looking. That's just, I got other things to do. Who cares? What's your car look like when it crashes? If it crashes, I'll take a picture and show you. We'll just go crash it so I can see. Okay, you pay for it. This fascination with temperatures is just mind-boggling. If you run the equipment the way it's intended to run, you're highly unlikely to have any heat issues with anything modern. Michael Martin says, Carey, in case you missed my previous message, I've made a contribution via your PayPal. Right on. Thanks, you guys. Again, you guys are the sponsors of the show here. And I appreciate it. It's keeping me in business. Doing YouTube as a business. Leaning more and more that way every day. And Marty contributed again, $10. Thanks, Marty. Say the Fantex Eclipse P600s have an option for a no window side panel. That's good to know. I don't think NZXT makes any cases without glass anymore, do they? Or do they? Hugh Wong has contributed $2 again. Have you used an AX860? Is it good? I purchased on eBay used. I don't know what you purchased on eBay, if it's any good or not. I certainly would not source a component as important as a power supply from an unknown seller with unknown customer service and hope PayPal's going to do the right. PayPal, I use PayPal, but if I have a problem, I'd almost just rather live with it than try and get anybody on PayPal to help me. Because I would not source computer parts from an unknown seller. I would not do that. If you want to go to Micro Center, if you want to go to newegg.com, amazon.com, B&H Photo, I'm sure in Canada there are electronics retailers there online that we don't have here that are reputable, large corporations, good customer service. I'm not saying what you bought is bad, but you're gambling. You're saving some money and you're buying something from probably an unknown seller. You know, you can go right to EVGA and buy power supplies directly from them. The AX is a Corsair, and I don't know if Corsair sells direct, but I wouldn't have done it. I would not source anything important from eBay. But that's me, and I'm running a business, and I don't want to have to return and support it and then have the manufacturer go, well, that's not meant for your country, so your warranty is not valid or whatever. Who knows? They call that gray market stuff, and who knows what it is. Maybe it's all on the up and up. Maybe it's legit. You're about to find out. But at least you wouldn't have that anxiety or concern if you sourced it from a reputable retailer. And for the few bucks that you saved, to know that you've got the peace of mind that you likely got a legitimate, authentic, genuine, never used product that you can easily return if there's a problem from a reputable reseller, to me is peace of mind that's not much more than probably what you paid. But that's me. William Lynn says, get a fractal design, Meshify C case, no RGB. Yeah, the Meshify is kind of funky looking. Marty might want to look at that. He just needs to go to the Fractal Design website and then look through their cases and see if anything rings his bell. And Stefan is recommending Fantex Eclipse P400A. Go to the Fantex website as well. It's a good case manufacturer. Jaxta says, I only get used graphics cards off of eBay because they're like 50% off. There's a lot of scam artists on eBay. I don't know, man. You do what you're going to do, but I wouldn't do it. But I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it to pay my bills. Got to pay my bills. Greg says, with EVGA, I'd have to send it back to USA and customs papers. Oh, that's weird. They should normally have local warranty if they're selling in your country, but that's an important consideration. I can only speak from my perspective. I don't know what it's like in other countries. This is really all I've ever been, where I've ever been. Certainly where I've only ever lived is in the United States. So I don't know how other countries do things. You guys have to... It's like a GPS, right? A GPS will tell you when to turn, but not necessarily exactly when. You still got to use your eyeballs, right? So I'm just giving you a guide and giving you things to think about. And I expect you to know that there's situations, if you're in another country, that exist that I am not aware of. So you know. I can only tell you what I know. I can't tell you what you know. Dawn says, don't we all have to pay bills? Well, not the same way I do, right? You might go to work and work as a cashier and then come home and play on your computer, and you want to order a graphics card from eBay because it's cheaper, because you're on a whatever, you don't have graphics card money laying around, so you're trying to find a shortcut. And if it breaks, it doesn't work, you got to send it back, you got to do, I mean, you're not trying to run a business off of it, you know. That'll put you out of business quickly. It'll ruin your reputation and put you out of business. So what you do at home is fine for you at home. And that's what most YouTube tech channels are. They're just home hobbyists and enthusiasts, or they used to be technicians many, many years ago, and that technology has long passed them by. And a lot of what they talk about has no real accountability or repercussions. And what you do for you, the only one that's affected is you. But what I do, there are repercussions. So I've got to, I would like to stay in business. I'm kind of funny that way. And I will hedge the bets at spending a little bit more money, a little tiny bit more, to ensure my customer, to do everything I can to ensure that my customer will be happy and not have any problems. And if there's a problem, then it won't cost me money to fix. And I have been in that situation before. And I don't want to be in that situation anymore. It's not the way business is supposed to work. And if I don't fix it at my own cost, why would the customer ever come back to me again? Like, if you make a customer happy, they might tell a friend or two, but if you tick a customer off, they'll tell everybody they know. Sherry McFarland's recommending the Cooler Master Silencio S400, which is an MATX tower. We don't have an MATX board. It can't be. We're going with a full-size, I think we're going with a full-size Z390 on a 9900 KS. But I suppose we could do Z390 and micro ATX. I suppose we could. We didn't buy the motherboard yet, now that I think about it. So, okay, well, take a look at the Cooler Master options, Marty. That's another idea. And Don says, oh, I was basically agreeing with you about, oh, okay, I misunderstood what you said about the, don't we all have to pay bills? I gotcha, okay. The I/O shield on the back on the case is, on the counter, is not aligned properly. This I/O shield is the back of the motherboard. It's not adjustable. There is no adjustment. So in other words, the motherboard has mounting holes. If you want to watch this computer being built, you can see when I put it in that was addressed at that time. That is exactly how that fits. There is no adjustment option. The holes on the motherboard align with the standoffs, and the I/O shield is a part of the motherboard. Who's looking at the back of the computer? Is that what? You can't fix that. Go with a different case, you can go with a different motherboard, but if you're that picky, you're never going to be happy. It's not a perfect world, but it's pretty damn close. Anytime the I/O shield's built onto the motherboard, however that motherboard mounts onto those standoffs, remember, this is a little larger. This opening is a little larger because it's made for you to insert an I/O shield. So because we're not inserting one, this I/O shield is slightly smaller. And if they made it bigger, then the motherboard wouldn't sit correctly enough against the back of the case. So they'd almost have to recess the edges of it, which they kind of did, and then turned it into little grounding straps back there. I can't think of a better way to do it, honestly. So, yeah, that's normal. I mean, I appreciate your sharp eye, but nothing you can do. Rudiger's contributed $2. Rudiger Lurthy says Leon Lee TU100B. How is Lyle have his teeth recovered? How you doing, Lyle? Let's take a look. Let's see. He just really does seem to be just back to old Lyle. That's what I can tell you. He was back to old Lyle in 2 days. Let's see. Let's just move the camera. Let's see. There he is. There's my boy. Give me the side eye. Are you giving me side eye? You fuzzy monster. Okay. He wants a cookie. It's cookie time? All right, we'll get you some cookies. We've got some stuff from your Bark Box right here. Maybe Bark Box wants to sponsor me. And Jimmy's right there. Jimmy's like, poke at that bag. Look at that face. Look at that face. Maybe you guys should face this way. No, I'm in the way. Let me back up. What's up, Jimmy boy? No, sit. Good boy. Leave the fingers. And this one will take your fingers right off if you're not careful. Chomp. Did you even chew it? What was that? How many chews to the center of the Tootsie Pop? All right, Jimmy. He's very gentle with taking food. This guy over here is like a shark. He'll take a finger, even if he doesn't even have teeth. Look at all the drool all over you. You've got drool all over your bib. That's his bib. This whole fuzzy area right here, it's all wet. Jimmy's like, yeah, knock it off. Can I have it? You're such a good boy. Chomp. How many we got left? I hope there's an even number. Well, a little one. Wait a minute. There's only one left, I hope. Oh no, there's two. Well, you got a little one before, so you can have that one, and you can have that one. See, he chews. See what that's like? Look at your brother. Your brother from another mother. He chews. It's what he uses. You don't even chew, and you lose your teeth. You know why you lost your teeth? Because you weren't using them. All right. Good boys. Good boys. You're a good boy. Oh, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Oh, I got human on me. Oh, it's so gross. Shake it off. I got human on you. Yeah, oh, it's gross. How about you? You like human. You like that? Yeah, you like some human? Look at, who wants more human? And Lyle's like, out of my way, jackwagon. Characters. All right, boys, that's it till dinner time. All right, guys, that was fun. Thanks, you guys, for, it was thoughtful to ask about Lyle. He seems to be back to his old Lyle-y self. Lyle-y coyote. I didn't adjust this right, did I? Let's put it back where it was. Nope. Almost. Not quite. Wait. Oh, I bumped it. Yes. Okay. What am I doing? There I am. Chris Sidenor says, Carey, still enjoying my PC that you inspired me to build. It runs great. Since then, I've upgraded 3 other systems. Chris from Houston. Why is Chris not a moderator? I recognize your name. You've been here a long time, Chris. Thank you. Sienna says, good human. Donnie says, we don't let our dog take food like that. We always make her take it nice. Well, we did, and now she does it all the time. You know what? The dog's not to blame. If I lay the food in my hand the same way every time, he'll gently take it out of my hand. Sometimes I throw the food to him and see if he'll catch it. So when I'm giving him the treat, he's ready. And so that's on me. That's totally on me. I'm not doing it the same way all the time. So, but some dogs are just naturally more food aggressive than others. Like Jimmy's a very gentle dog. He He'll sometimes grab a finger, but he'll instantly, like, he feels bad about it. Lyle's like, what? Just look at you like, what? Get mad at me. You're the one who put your finger in my mouth. Snapping like a turtle. Yeah, you said that right. Do I secretly have a favorite? You know, they're each unique and special, and I will be sad when they're no longer here. But Lyle has seniority. He's been here longer. And Jimmy will eventually, if things go the way they normally go, have seniority. And there's no favorite, but there's definitely a level of seniority. There is an alpha dog. Might look at a Cougar MX330X. I'll tell you, the Cougar cases I've worked on were very cheap, flimsy junk stuff. But again, I don't know if it's fair to think all the company's products are the same, but I was not impressed. It was a cheap case, and it was inexpensive. That's what I could say about my experience with Cougar. Was Lyle a shark in the past life? I'm starting to wonder. Brian Van Houten says, greetings from Holland. Let's make Brian a moderator. There you go, Brian. Has Scythe sponsored me yet? No, Scythe isn't happy with me right now. Scythe sent me coolers months ago to test. I said I would test them against each other without really thinking it through, that I didn't have a motherboard, processor, RAM. And I mentioned it to Scythe because they're like, hey, did you do it? I mean, they sent it to me 3 days later, like, did you get them? Did you do the video yet? I'm like, hold on, back off here for a minute. They just came in today. I'll get to it. And I got busy with customers, and then, a couple weeks goes by. I go, hey, did you do those cooler reviews yet? We sent you the coolers. I'm like, yeah, you're not paying me, but I did agree to do it, so I'll get to it. And a couple weeks go by. You do that yet? I'm like, I don't have anything. When I really think about it, I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then I'm like, wait a minute. How am I going to do this? I'm going to need a pretty high-end system to test these coolers. It's not going to do me any good to test them on an i3. It's going to be expensive. And I don't have money laying around to just buy a nice motherboard and a nice CPU to test your coolers. So you can wait. Like, I was leaving the door open for them to go, well, we'll send you a motherboard, or we'll send you what's it cost, and we'll send it to you so you'll have it. They did not offer. And remember, I'm doing this for free, and they act like they just went out of the world by sending me 5 coolers, which, probably have a retail value of $300, all added up together, which isn't their cost. And I've been very supportive to them, and they just they want more, and they don't want to pay, they don't want to help me. Like, we helped you by sending you the coolers. Well, I mean, you did, and I have them, and I'm going to do it. And it's my fault. I should have thought this through. I don't have anything. I don't have the time. I don't have anything laying around. And then what am I going to do with them when I'm done? And not like I need them. Who am I doing this for? Like, I was really hoping that they would be more open to becoming a part of the team, like realizing, I like you, do you like me? Hey, maybe we can work together. You're fairly unknown in the United States. I can help you with that. I love your Mugen 5. I don't know about the others. I love the Mugen 5. It's clear. Whether you sponsor me or you don't sponsor me, or you know who I am, you don't know who I am, I still recommend it, and I still use it. and I use it a lot. And a lot of people wouldn't know who you were if it wasn't for me. So how about showing me a little love? And they go, yeah, have just a couple of coolers for free. Okay, well, I guess that's a little love, but I mean, I was kind of hoping for real love, you know, like, I don't know. I'm a little sad. It's not the way I thought it was going to go down. I feel a little like I'm being used, but I also have no one to blame for that but me. I should have been a little more assertive in defining how far I would go without a payment. I mean, at this point, the number of coolers I show, they should be giving me every cooler that my customer orders. Those customers shouldn't have to pay for those coolers. They're $48 brand new, so what do you think they're costing them? You know, if $48 is the money where there's a profit, then to send them to me directly so I can use them on customer builds is good advertising for them, and it's what the customer would have ordered, and I think that's what they're thinking. Well, they're going to order it anyway. Why should we give it away? I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. They're not telling me, but every once in a while they reach out and go, so how's that cooler review video coming along? Remember those coolers we sent you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking right at them, kind of boxes covered with dust. Yeah, so you're gonna got a date scheduled for that? So I don't have a high-end RAM and motherboard and CPU, and I really don't want to take apart Nuka-Cola and risk damaging it. So to test your coolers, to show you how guys, you know, the difference and how much they cost and how effective they are at cooling, and overall sort of get a performance idea of value for performance in the variety of scythe versus scythe. Ooh, that's a good title. But I was really hoping Scythe would be a little more supportive other than just doing the bare minimum, which honestly, they didn't even have to do that. And I'm sure they're wishing right now that they didn't. So that's not building in the right direction. So, sort of at a stalemate. Love hurts. When only one's in love, it sure does. The company is in business to make a profit. Well, that's what we're all about. I'm here to make the public aware of their products. I'm a marketing tool, and a very cheap one compared to what marketing companies cost and what commercials cost and what advertising costs. I am cheap, and I like you, and I like your products, and I think you're a good company. So you can't buy that sort of honesty. So why can't we work it out a deal, you know? Maybe I'm not talking to the right person inside. Maybe I got to reach out to somebody in a different department. Or maybe I just need to grow a spine and just say it. Because I've been hinting around it and they're not picking up on the hint. So maybe I just need to throw the gauntlet down and go, you know what? I want you to pay me this much money, and I'm going to use that money to buy what I need to buy to test your coolers. And then you can do whatever you want with the video. You can market it, you can edit it, and if you like that and you want to establish a more permanent sponsorship or would like to sponsor from time to time, I would love to work with you. I'm not good at that. But what have I got to lose at this point? I'm getting a little bit, this is why I say being self-employed takes a special personality, because I like doing the work. I am a horrible salesman. I'm just hoping people get what I'm hitting at in a very polite way and like what they see and say, can we be a part of this? Or, you know, we can see your enthusiasm for our product. We'd like to work with you. That's not happening. It's sort of like, you know, for all I know, they could be saying, I wonder why Carey hasn't asked us for any sponsorship. Although I did bring it up a long time ago and was told more or less, we'll get back to you, or we'll see, or they got to talk to someone. It was something dismissive, and I was like, all right, I get it. And of course, they never got back to me on it. So, but they still get back to me about, have you tested those coolers? Not because I don't want to. I just don't. I'm not getting paid for it, and I have no use for them. And the only person it benefits ultimately is them. They might say, well, you'll get some views out of it. And I'm like, great. I'll make $75, through contributions or whatever, which is generous and it's kind and it's not owed to me. But if there's paying customers waiting, and I've got to spend $600 on a CPU and $200 on a motherboard, another $150 on RAM, so I can earn 75. That's a little rough. I got to reconsider that approach. I could do it, but I couldn't do it over and over and over again, And then what's my incentive? What's my reward? Are you then going to consider sponsoring me? What's it going to take for you to like me? How much do I have to spend for you to like me? Ian Scott Johnston says, create a rate card with all the options you can simply hand over. Well, the problem is, what am I worth, right? There's no precedent here. I don't have sponsors. And you've got to determine what my viewer interaction rate is, how influential I am, if you want to call it that, what sort of effectiveness my campaign, they like to use a lot of these words. Well, if we run a campaign with Carey, we wonder what the what do they call it now? RTM, not RTM. They wonder what the interaction rate is. How many viewers do you have versus how many click, and how many of those who click actually buy? And then how much did it cost us and how much did we make? And without those numbers, like Scythe has a pretty good idea of what I've done for free, what influence I have and what impact I have. But because we didn't use a specific Carey Holzman link to Scythe, they don't know when somebody buys a cooler that I've linked off Amazon that that's coming from me. They just know they're selling a lot through Amazon. And I'm like, well, that's because of me. They go, well, we don't know that. So I'm like, well, then I guess I'll stop. But I'm not going to stop because I like their cooler. I'm going to use it whether I'm paid or not. I think it's the best cooler for the money out there, unquestionably, undoubtedly. And all of you who have used them, every single one of you have agreed. Some of you have gotten rid of your liquid coolers and replaced it with the Scythe Mugen 5 and said, best thing I ever did. More than one of you, more than two of you have sent me emails stating those exact words. And that's great. You see the value in it. I saved you some money. Your life's easier. I'm happy. You guys got useful information. Scythe got the sale. What's the problem? Problem is I'm not a good salesman. DHR Street Speed's probably over there shaking his head. He's probably, I bet he's right there. He's going, oh, God. I can already see it. And, it's not my wheelhouse, man. I'm not good at that. What do you want me to do? Cult of Personality says, if at Scythe decides to sponsor you, I'd love to purchase my coolers through you, as it would simplify things seriously. If you're interested, maybe we can work out some sort of an agreement there. I mean, look, until Scythe gets on board, we can, I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. But they've given me no indication that they're interested in spending any money. They'll send me product, but they don't want to spend any money. Click-through rate, CTR. Thank you. I know. See these indies. I'm not good at it. I am not good. I'm gonna mean what you say and say what you mean, and just throw in fancy words that aren't used in everyday conversation outside of corporate America. That is a big turnoff for me. So we're gonna have our ideation meeting. Your what? Ideation. A meeting for ideas? Yeah. Oh, we're going to be spitballing. Oh, it's ideation. Okay. Excuse me, I have to take a bio break. You're going to use the toilet? No, I'm taking a bio break to the restroom. Okay. I don't belong here. Where's the door? Where's the exit strategy? Get me out. Yeah, I don't do well. I don't flourish in that environment. Magda513 says, Carey, hello from Greece. If you want the best case without glass and without RGB, then Leon Lee PC A75 is the best choice. Well, I think Leon Lee's website is worth a look. Used to use a lot of Leon Lee for the customers that could afford it. When there were, the all aluminum, brushed aluminum cases. In fact, the customers who bought those are still using them today. They've been upgraded several times. They don't have front port USB 3.0 because they're old. The cases are old. But they love the cases so much. They're lightweight and they're stylish and timeless. Was it Leon Lee PC 99 or something like that, I recall. Spitballing is unsanitary. Sure. I'm not reading sure. It's very British. Get the cooler out of the box, show it to people, and at the end of the video, explain to Sai that you need a motherboard and chip supplied to further test the cooler. And RAM, don't forget RAM, and a power supply. It'd be nice to have a case to put it in, to see which, because if I put it on an open bench, I don't know the size limitations. How big is that cooler? Can I put the panel on now? And some of those coolers are pretty big. And I have shown the boxes off in videos months ago. I showed everybody what the coolers were. In fact, they said you don't even need to test one of those coolers. They don't even offer it for sale anymore. It's still brand new in a box. And a graphics card? No, we don't necessarily need a graphics card because if it's, a modern CPU, for testing purposes, the graphics card would just get in the way. We could just use the onboard video. That would be fine. We don't need a graphics card. I have a board meeting with some cooler people. That's funny. That's good. That was very clever. That's moderator status level right there. That's very clever phrasing. Phrasing. You should totally do a community build. The Xenos at this point is still a community build, and I'm going to pick that up here probably in a couple weeks, and it will eventually get edited together in one big video. Part of the reason it's going to be delayed, not only because of all the customers waiting, but there's a couple of little pieces that I have misplaced, and John Xenos is sending. He's very understanding, and he's going to send me those couple of cables that are proprietary for the built-in screens. I don't know where they are. They're here somewhere, and I don't know where they are. It's very embarrassing to tell him that, by the way. It was like, I don't want to tell him this. Well, I don't know what to do. Jeremy Kramer's contributed $20. Hey, Jeremy, thank you. He goes, here's the Carey, the man who does it all with style. Yeah, style, that's what we call it. What current price of new hardware out, if any, is worth buying right now? So the price fluctuations on the Samsung 970 EVO Plus has been at $449 up to $538. Only yesterday or the day before, yesterday I think, the price went back down to $399.99 on Amazon and on Newegg. Whatever Amazon does, Newegg does. I think the price is going to go back to $449, and I don't know. It just keeps bouncing around, but that's a $50 price fluctuation, and it'll stay. It stayed at $499, I think, for 9 days. So you're like, oh, it's never going to come down. And I was talking with Marty. I said, Marty, I wouldn't order that drive yet. He wants that drive. I said, man, you're going to spend $50 more. Just wait. He's like, no, I don't care. I'll pay the extra $50. And then we had to delay because he's still picking a case. And I said, well, we don't need it right now, so you got nothing to lose. Whatever. I mean, it could go up, but anyway, MSRP should be $399.99. That is the most you should pay as MSRP, as far as I'm concerned. And I told Marty 6 weeks ago, I said, the 9900 KS is $629 on Amazon. We need to buy it now for your build. He's like, that's a lot of money. I go, no, it isn't. That's a bargain. I go, this CPU is going to be twice this much money next month. If you look at the price of a 9900 KS on Amazon right now, it's like $1,200. And I knew that was going to happen. I called it. And Marty believed me, and Marty's got the KS. It's waiting in a box. And we picked up the 2 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo Plus for $399.99. We came down in price overnight. I haven't checked it today, but it's been at $399 since Sunday. Sunday or Monday? I can't remember. I have no doubt it's going to go back up to $449 again, and I don't know why that's happening. All the Intel CPU prices are all up. 9700K should be $389. It's selling for $399. If you can find one in stock. In the meantime, AMD prices are coming down. I keep seeing sales on the 3900X for like $410, $420, when it's normally like a $450 chip ordinarily. There's a $500 chip ordinarily. And then the 3950X is another $250 on top of that, $750. So it's weird that there's this abundance of AMD, good AMD chips, and they're being, like, AMD should be asking MSRP because the Intel chips are all sold, everybody's sold out. And I don't understand why. Like, what's this rush on the Intel chips? It's weird. And what's the deal with the Samsung drives going up to $500 for a $400 drive? And why is it leveled off at $449? And I was looking at my microphone packs, and they're usually $599. And I saw they went down to $449. And I went, ooh, $449. No, I'm sorry, $549. It went down $50. I go, oh, it's a $50 savings. I wonder if that's going to stay. You never know with Amazon. It could stay that way. It could be the new price. It could go back up. It could go further down. I'm like, sales tax. It's still going to be at right around the same retail price. And I don't really need it. It'd be nice to have. And I couldn't make up my mind, so I didn't pull the trigger on it. 2 days later, price went down another $50. So it dropped $100 from $599 to $499. And I went, buy now, buy it, buy it, before they change their mind. And I think those Sennheiser microphones are still $499. It's a hell of a deal. It's $100 off. They've been $599 all year. So I don't know what changed, but it dropped $50 for a few days, and then it dropped another $50. I always tell people, if you're going to make a big purchase on Amazon, add it to your wish list and start watching the prices before you're ready to buy, so you can watch those prices there. Some products never move. The Scythe Mugen 5 cooler has moved. It's normally $48.99. In the days I'm live and I say that, it goes up to $60 for some weird reason. But that's just coincidence. And now it's back to $48.99 again. So if you're patient and you know what you should be paying, you'll save money. And I care about that. Maybe you don't. I don't want to get ripped off. I don't want to pay more than you. So instead of just deciding one day I'm going to buy this motherboard, maybe you should know, what's that motherboard been selling for lately? And unless you're watching it, put it on your wish list, log into Amazon every day. You don't even log in, you just sign into Amazon, whatever. And then look at your wish list, and it'll show you all the current prices, and it'll let you know prices dropped 7% since you've added this to your wish list. Some products, they never budge. Some products I've been watching for over a year, and they're the same price today as they were a year ago. And other products, like I've already talked about the examples I've given, they're up and down. And I can't find a pattern to it. And I think my sister right now is recording a video to demonstrate this with dates and show you guys those prices. And she's going to put together a quick tips video demonstrating exactly what I'm saying firsthand. So if I had a bunch of, if I had $4,000 $4,500 laying around, I'd buy 10 of those Samsung 2 terabyte NVMe drives right now, because when the price goes back to 450 or 500, this never happens. This never happens. Technology always gets cheaper. This never happens. If Madi wanted to sell his 9900 KS right now, I bet you there's someone out there willing to pay $1,000 for it, brand new in a box, never opened. Yeah, I bet you there is. And finding a 9700K right now or a 9900K, it's pretty tough. I don't know what the deal is. And why is it higher than MSRP? Why did it go up in price? I don't know. I don't know the answers to any of this. I'm just observing and scratching my head going, there's something going on here I don't understand. Which, you know, is pretty much every day for me anyway. 237 Alan contributed €5. Says, greetings from Germany and thanks for your great computer tips and tricks. Well, thank you, Alan. What career would you recommend to get into as an IT career? I would say security. PC security is big, big business and isn't going away anytime soon. And security is getting more complex. The scam artists and the black hat hackers are getting far more clever. Software is more complicated, which means there's more opportunity to find exploits, things. If that's the kind of challenge you like, you're going to have a job for a long time. High Test says the 9900 KS on Amazon is $1,289 today at Amazon. Madi and I both bought one at $629. And I told Madi, I go, you watch. Mark my words, price is going up. And I told Madi, price is going down on the Samsung. Now, don't buy it at $450, man. Wouldn't it suck if Madi said, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to pay the $450 for it. And then it came in and it's just sitting here while he's waiting for a case. And while we're waiting, the price goes to $399. Now we got to send an email to Amazon customer service and go, hey, could you credit us that $50 back? And they probably would, because if they wouldn't, they'll say, well, we'll just send it back then, and I'll order another one for $399, and you can take this one back for free. How about that? And of course, they'd have to pay for the shipping, and they'd probably go, okay, here's your $50. Bordura says, hey, Carey, hello from the other side of Michigan. I'm still waiting for the graphics card or a next generation 3080 Ti, and I missed the 9900 KS. I need to buy an i9 10900K and a new motherboard. Oh, crap. Well, that sucks. This is a problem when you're piecemealing a system and not buying everything at once. Bordura had his eye on a very special graphics card, which is very expensive and very exclusive and very hard to get, and it might have slipped through his fingers. And then he bought his board with the intention to get the 9900 KS, and for one reason or another, missed the opportunity to get one. And it's highly unlikely that Intel's making them anymore. They were a limited run, and I think they were going to run through February and be done. And I could be wrong. But, you know, when you're building a system the level that Bordura is, you're going to want everything to be brand new, cutting edge. At this point, now that the 10th generation chip is out, you probably don't want a 9th generation chip, even if you could get one, based on what I know about Bordura and what he's trying to do here. All right, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for me. It's 4:30. In fact, speaking of graphics cards, I'm expecting Madi wanted a 2080 Ti blower style card, and I mentioned I picked one up from PNY, directly from PNY.com. You can order direct. You don't have to go through Amazon, you know, or Newegg. You can go right to PNY and get a better price. And it wouldn't take his credit card. And it was a Sunday night, and there was nobody to call because the offices were closed. So I went to do it the next day, and it said they were out of stock. I was like, all right, well, I waited a couple days, and I had some time, and I'm like, let me see if I can find another one. And EVGA, again, I went straight to EVGA to buy the graphics card. And EVGA said, yeah, we got the new 2080 Ti special edition with the clear cover, lights up, blower style card. And it's like $1,149, I think. And it says limit 2 per household. I'm like, really? Somebody's got $2,500 laying around? And that's fine if you do. But if you have $3,500 laying around, $3,600, and you want to buy 3, no, it's not allowed. That's not a coupon. They're not saying, hey, here's a coupon for a discount, limit 2 per household. This is MSRP, full price, limit 2 per household. I'm in the wrong business. I am in the wrong business. Sounds like NVIDIA needs a little more competition from AMD, or Intel needs to jump on board with their GPU, because, ooh, NVIDIA is really milking it. And hey, in this industry, who can blame them? It's a cutthroat, low-margin industry. So if you have just ahead in the game a little bit more than your competitor, you better squeeze out every penny you can, because tomorrow it'll all flip the other way before you know it. So I get the business side of it, but it just sucks to be a consumer when it's traditionally been a consumer buyer's market for a very long time. So we're in very unusual times than it's been the last 15 years. It's very much different today. And I hope it's temporary. Yours is like, yes, right, you're not in the right business. Yeah, tell me about it, believe me. Bordura says, I've got the MSI Z390 Meg Godlike Gaming, which is a $500 motherboard. And he did buy the CPU. He got the i9 9900K for $500. That's a good price. Okay, I mean, it's good. Those are good parts, Bordura. But they're not the latest and greatest anymore. I get it. I know. It's an expensive. He says, I'll sell the motherboard in 9900K for $1,000 easy on eBay. Oh, you got a plan. You're good. The problem I worry about with stuff like that is I'm going to get a buyer who's a scammer, and he's going to tell me the board isn't good, or the CPU isn't good, and try and swap it out with one he's got, then tell me. So I got to write serial numbers down, and it's probably not going to happen. I think most buyers are honest, but there's as many dishonest buyers as it seems there are dishonest sellers. Somebody looking to scam you. I didn't know a lot of people on eBay because it's worldwide. They want you to ship worldwide, and that, who knows what the shipping is, right? What's the shipping going to cost once it's all packed up, and what's it going to weigh, and how far is it got to go? And it's like, okay, USA only, and then that limits the people who can buy it. You might have 25 people in a bidding war in Europe who want it, but you won't ship there because the prices doesn't make, I don't know. I just rarely use eBay anymore, very rarely. But hey, I'm negative when it comes to that. I'm sure you'll sell it, it'll be fine. I worry too much. All right, guys, thank you again for watching. If you like today's video, you can let me know that by hitting the thumbs up button below the video there. Just turn that blue if you want to. And if you're not already subscribed, wrong button. If you're not already subscribed, you can hit that red subscribe button. And then click the bell to turn on notifications so you'll be alerted anytime I post a new video or go live. And you probably all have heard that a million times from content creators on YouTube. So I don't do that very often because I kind of figure you probably already know. And my thanks to all the contributors, all my friends in blue. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. GT contributed $5. Thank you, GT. Thanks for supporting the show. Supporting the channel, really. He says, get some $5 Peltiers and put all the coolers on them and measure their power output. I'd rather see how they actually work in the real world. I'm a real world guy. I don't like to emulate reality. I like to be in reality. It's just a lot easier. So my thanks to 237 Alan, Jeremy Kramer, Rudiger Luther, Hugh Wong, Rick Sasbo, Ryan Farmer, John Yasuda, Hugh Wong, and John Yasuda again, and Madi Yoel numerous times today, thanks. Red Dragon and Rick Lakes, as well as David Griswold and Gary Tatum. Jeff0000, Radix1912 again, Majestic White Tiger, and several from John Yasuda, thank you. Don Dixon and Darloff and Spencer Earnhardt. Peter Vigian, I think I missed that one, has contributed 10 pounds. And another from John Yasuda again, and Redix1912 again, and Samuel Ramos, Edward Turan, Mark Lucen, and Jonathan Mayberry, Ken Masudik, and Willem Gordon. A couple more from Madi, so generous. Thank you, guys. Dr. Gregorian and Cogden with a wonderful contribution today with the Amazon e-gift card. It was very thoughtful. Thank you. It'll get used. Rick Hubbard and Dr. Gregorian again, and Luzian65, Freak Gamer, Steve Devine, Freedom Flights, Data. Better say that one right, Carey. Dr. Data, Paul Mitchell, and Malicious Code, Andrew Brockington, and a couple more from Freak Gamer 301 and Dr. Data. Oystein's contributed again, Joe Spindler, or Spindler, I think it's Spindler. M. Watson, 1972, Ben Stroud, and Free Range Scotto. John Craig, M. Watson, 1972 again, Gunner and Gunner. Richard Angeline and Bearpaw, Richard Angeline again, Joe Bush, and the first contribution today when we first got kicked off here, right out of the gate, Brendan Looney. Thank you so much for all of your generosity and your support. I appreciate the interaction and the kindness that you show, not only myself, but each other. And thank you for being a part of this amazing community that we're building together because we choose to create a better place, you know. And I don't want to call it an escape. I like to call it the new normal. You got to start somewhere on the internet. And I can promise you, no matter what, that will never change on my channel. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And until then, what outro do I want to use? I think we'll go with this one. Bye for now.